There is nothing happening on the roadways of yet this Thursday morning, but we'll keep you updated with traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.505 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends and welcome on in. There is a lot going on, the least of which is Jay Harper's running late today, which is why you were subjected to ABC News. We apologize in advance. Jay should be here by the 6 o'clock hour, but there is a lot going on. We'll keep you updated with news and weather and traffic and everything else that is going on. Apparently, President Trump and Xi Jinping out there in China, they're getting ready to toast each other. They've had what many are saying, some decent talks today. By the way, as far as your weather goes for today, it looks like it's going to be sunny and a high of around 71. And again, appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. By the way, if you're wondering where Joan Jones is, she is off to Maryland, where yet another grandchild. I don't know if said grandchild has been born yet. Have you heard from Joan at all, Sam? I have not.
No.
So
I heard from the big boss man before I heard from anyone this morning.
Regarding the tardiness of one Jay Harper.
Yes, and the absence of one Joan Jones.
Yes. Anyway, whatever. So it's all fine, well, and good. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about. Coming up, I'm going to talk about the Thucydides trap. Now, if you don't know what the Thucydides trap is, well, I didn't either. But apparently there was a kind of a threat made with Xi Jinping, the president of China, and the Chinese government basically saying to the United States, you need to and we need to beware of the Thucydides trap. And if you don't know what that is when a rising power displaces a current ruling power. And so basically what China is saying is, yeah, we're coming for you. We're gunning for you, America. So we're going to talk about that because there's a lot of geopolitical stuff that is going on here behind the scenes as Donald Trump is in China. Apparently, and I've got some video here, apparently just a few minutes ago, this is courtesy of Fox News and Aisha Husni, who is with the president in China. They've come out now with a memo of what the two sides have been talking about.
Expanding market access for American businesses into China. Remember, the president brought this delegation of 16 CEOs from different business and tech backgrounds. They also talked about wanting more progress on stopping the flow of fentanyl. That's something the president brought up. Now, the Chinese purchases of American agricultural products was also something that was brought up in these discussions. And President Xi expressed interest in purchasing more American oil to reduce China's dependence on the strait in the future. That's a really big takeaway. So we're going to focus on that as well. Also, both countries agree that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. And after reading through this readout, there was really nothing in there that said that China was going to help pressure Iran in any way to ending the conflict. We were wondering if that was going to come up.
So that is Aisha Husni, and you know how much China, we've talked about this before with EJ Antoni and other folks, but you know how much China buys from Iran on a daily basis of oil? 1.38 million barrels every single day. Compare that to America, where they buy all of 38,000 barrels per day. So, you know, we've been talking about how it is to China's benefit for them to ultimately try to pressure, cajole, whatever, try to get Iran to allow the Strait of Hormuz to be opened. But, you know, this is a situation where, and there is some activity in the Strait of Hormuz. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But bottom line is, for China, they are hurting, and they are hurting big time. I guess my question would be this, and a lot of these things, we've already heard. I mean, President Trump, part of the narrative today is President Trump talking about fentanyl and the ingredients of fentanyl coming into America from China. It goes from China into Mexico. They manufacture it in Mexico, and then it comes across our southern border. We've been talking about this for a long time. We've also been talking about the incessant spying that China does on America, the theft of our intellectual property here in America, courtesy of China. All of that, we've been talking about this for a long time. So will there actually be any real progress made on either one of those two fronts? I don't know. I certainly do hope so. But, for me, when we talk about what is going on with China and President Trump, this is going to be really interesting. The whole trip, really, you've got two different priorities. You've got President Trump's priorities and you've got China's priorities. China's priorities, of course, is Taiwan, and we're going to get into that. But for China, it's Taiwan. For President Trump, it is all about trade. So there's two differing priorities here. It does sound like, and we talked about this yesterday, Donald Trump bringing Elon Musk and Tim Cook from Apple and all of these other executives, to China, basically all these guys crashing the party. And President Trump is asking China big time, listen, okay, so you want to buy some of our oil? Great. Let's also do more business. The people of Taiwan, the government of Taiwan, they are crapping Twinkies because they believe that Donald Trump could very well leave them high and dry. We'll talk about that as well. Again, there's a lot to talk about geopolitically from an economic standpoint. We're going to talk about tariffs and all of that. Marco Rubio was asked about China and the Strait of Hormuz and oil. This is what the Secretary of State had to say.
We've made the argument to the Chinese, and I hope it's compelling. The Chinese have ships stuck in the Persian Gulf because setting up a system that says we're going to let certain ships through but others not, it's easier said than done. It's a huge source of instability. It threatens to destabilize Asia more than any other part of the world. It's in their interest to resolve this. We hope to convince them to play a more active role.
Yep, that is Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, among many other roles that he plays at the White House. A lot of CEOs that were at the ceremony. Really interesting. I don't know why, but I'm always fascinated by these trips that the president takes to China. One of the things that people here in Tennessee are really concerned about is soybeans, because we have a lot of soybean farmers here in the volunteer state. And one of the things that they're hoping for is that the president will be able to come to a deal with China so that they'll buy more ag from America, including soybeans. That has been a huge issue for soybean farmers here in America. So there is, again, a lot to talk about regarding China. I do like that both sides agree that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Can I ask this question, though? I hate to be a Danny Downer, but we can't trust China as far as we can trust Iran. We can't trust either one of these nations. I mean, we had in Arcadia, California, we had a mayor who was a Chinese spy. And I'm talking to Brian Wilson about this yesterday, great conversation. Will Donald Trump bring up the spying? I mean, we better, and I asked Brian this question and nobody really knows, but, we better be spying on China as well as they're spying on us, because they're doing one hell of a job. And so whether or not Donald Trump brings up, the incessant spying, and again, the theft of our intellectual property that was not on this memo that came out, both sides do agree that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They also are talking about market access for U.S. Business and technology, selling more ag products to China. Although in the report from Aisha Husni, they said they talked about it, but they didn't say, okay, what were the results of that discussion? Again, Tennessee's soybean farmers most definitely want to know. Buying oil for America, from America, that's another thing that they spoke about. And Donald Trump has said several different times now that we don't need China's help in ending the Iranian war. The president says we simply do not need the help of China. By the way, I don't know if I buy that because I would like this thing to end sooner than later because we all know where inflation is. We also know where the economy is, and we also know where the president's approval rating is. All of those are tied to the war in Iran. But President Trump, basically, he doesn't want to necessarily show weakness to Xi Jinping. And so asking the Chinese president for any assistance that he could provide in ending the Iranian war would put Donald Trump in a position of weakness at a time when the American president is looking to show strength. So that is also part of the equation. Got a lot more on this. It is 5:15 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time to check the roads.
Still nothing. That's it.
All right, thanks very much. If we could expand that just a little bit. 65 looking good coming out of Williamson County, coming down into downtown from White House. No problems there. Looking at 40 westbound coming out of Wilson County. No problems to report heading into downtown. Something like that. Maybe 24 heading into downtown from Murfreesboro. A-OK this morning. Thanks for listening to Super Talk 99.7. Now, what is the Thucydides trap? I didn't know until this morning. So that is when a rising power displaces a current ruling power. So during the dinner that Donald Trump and Xi Jinping were having, the Chinese president actually referenced this Thucydides trap. So basically what he is saying, and some people are saying that this was a kind of a threat, a warning, whatever you want to say, to the American president. This is how the Daily Mail frames it. But as the pair took their seats opposite each other in the Great Hall of the People in Tiananmen Square, Xi opened up with a loaded reference to the so-called Thucydides trap. The phrase refers to the ancient Greek historian Thucydides' account of Athens and Sparta and describes the danger of conflict when an established power feels threatened by a rising civilization. So basically, again, not to belabor the point, but this is being seen as a warning from China that if the U.S. mishandles the Taiwan situation, the U.S. and China could end up in war. And obviously, we don't want that. Nobody wants that. President Trump, though, he didn't seem to take the bait. Need some video here if we could. President Trump didn't seem to take the bait, actually thanking Xi Jinping for the warm welcome. This is President Trump.
You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president and president has had. And that's, to me, an honor. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you, and you would call me. And whenever we had a problem, people don't know, whenever we had a problem, we worked that out very quickly. We're going to have a fantastic future together.
All right, so that is President Trump. A lot of people, of course, they are worried about some sort of a conflict. Most of the time when folks talk about a possible World War III, America and China are always in the mix. There is, as we've been talking about, there's a lot on the table. We're talking about trade. We're talking about tariffs. We're talking about Taiwan, the war with Iran, again, among them. But here's the thing. Yes, China is a rising power, but are they about to displace America as the established dominant power in the world? Now, with that warning by Xi Jinping to avoid this Thucydides trap, it does seem like that was, I would say, a bit of a flex from China on the world stage. Now, right now, we are in the midst of a tariff war with China. We've got a roughly 10% tariff on many goods from China. But when you have the additional tariffs that have been placed on China due to all of the fentanyl that they allow to come into our country or the ingredients from fentanyl coming into our country via Mexico, then it is more like 30%. Some people say it's even 50%, depending on what we're talking about. China has a 10% tariff on our exports into China as well. One thing that our president is trying to do is to get China to buy more soybeans from America, and namely Tennessee. We have a lot of soybean farmers, and the tariff war has really impacted them a lot, particularly, obviously, in the rural communities. So why does China buy so many of our soybeans? Well, it's because they feed these soybeans to their pork and poultry industries. So with this tariff war going on, China decided to buy their soybeans from places like Brazil and Argentina. So there's a lot at risk. There's a lot at stake for the soybean farmers here in the state of Tennessee. The president, as we talked about, brought in Elon Musk and Tim Cook and many others. One headline blares that these CEOs collectively, they are worth $1 trillion. And the point that Trump is trying to make is that he wants to open up American business in China.
And I just want to say, on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, and I guess the best in the world. We have amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them, we asked the top 30 in the world, every single one of them said yes. And I didn't want the second or the third in the company. I wanted only the top. And they're here today to pay respects to you and to China. And they look forward to trade and doing business. And it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf. So I really look very much forward to our discussion. It's a big discussion. There are those that say this is maybe the biggest summit ever. They can never remember anything like it. I can say in the United States, people aren't talking about anything else. But it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be your friend. And the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so that is President Trump. But this was during the big dinner. The president really wants to negotiate better trade deals to get the tariff thing handled as well. Right now, you do have Xi Jinping, and he is toasting President Trump. One of the things that he said is that we can help each other succeed, and that is most certainly true. I would carry the audio, but it's like part in Chinese, and there's people interpreting. It's basically terrible audio. We'll bring you the highlights when they become posted. But, honestly, while Donald Trump is all about trade deals and tariffs, as I said, the Chinese, they want Taiwan, and this is a big deal.
For China's President Xi Jinping, no issue is more critical than Taiwan. Beijing has called it the core of China's core interests, with reunification by force, if necessary, the center of Xi's agenda. It's also critical for America's economy. Taiwan produces more than 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors, crucial for AI and defense, making Taiwan ground zero for a global supply chain.
There's a tremendous amount at stake in this relationship, and I don't think it's an exaggeration.
But China has seen Taiwan as a renegade province since 1949, when the nationalists lost the Chinese Civil War to the communists and fled the mainland. Today, it's an economic powerhouse with per capita GDP among the highest in the world. And for decades, the U.S. has played a role too, declining to recognize the Communist Party's claim over the island and selling Taiwan billions of dollars in arms every year.
Yes, it is the sticky wicket of Taiwan. Basically, China is always threatening to militarily take it over, and America is always in the way. China claims ownership over Taiwan, as you just heard. Basically, we tiptoe around the whole issue. Why does China claim ownership? Well, as you just heard, China's feeling is that Taiwan is simply a province of theirs, and Taiwan says, no, we are a sovereign nation. We are a sovereign economy. One thing to watch is this massive arms deal that we have on the table. It's like a $14 billion arms deal, and Donald Trump has not signed it yet. And the worry is that he won't sign it, and that he's going to leave Taiwan vulnerable by negotiating away the $14 billion arms deal that we have on the table with Taiwan.
But now a new $14 billion package has been awaiting Trump's signature for months. And many here fear Xi will use trade deals to weaken U.S. support or change the status quo.
There is definitely concern that he will trade away that arms sale in exchange for something else, whether that's for assistance on Iran or some kind of economic concession. President Trump's transactional approach is that everything's up for negotiation.
All right, so we'll have to see what happens there. By the way, nobody from the White House is talking about negotiating away that big old arms deal. One of the questions that people are asking is, who's got the military advantage? Is it us or is it China? Most people say that America does have the military advantage. But there is a catch, and it is a big one, and we'll talk about that straight ahead. It is 5:24 on Nashville's Morning News. Watch us on Super Talk TV if you would. Twitter, Twitch, 997WTN.com, Facebook, and also you can download the podcast and the on-demand audio anytime. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can also watch the show whenever you want on YouTube. So lots of ways to watch Nashville's Morning News. It is 5:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 615-737-9986 is the text line. And by the way, we don't have a news tease here because Jay Harper is on his way in, running a little bit late today. So we do have a lot more straight ahead. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 529 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends and hope you are doing well. Hey, Sam, 7706 has taken us both out.
Oh.
Sam, you need to have the same energy as Joan when you're doing the traffic. Get it together. 7706 also says that I am somehow part of the problem. I'm a dunce, he says. You know, the funny thing is I'm not actually denying that. You're a dunce if you think we can spy on China in any serious capacity as China is on us. We care too much about diversity to understand the threat of diversity, too much of it. Okay, we'll talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. Jay Harper is on his way in. He may be here by 6 o'clock. Right now, though, on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, we've got ABC News right now. There we go.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Siebertson. Welcome in Beijing at the start of a state banquet for President Trump's visit to China. President Xi Jinping speaking through a translator.
The people of China and the United States are both great peoples, achieving the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and making America great again.
Going on to say the U.S. and China can help each other succeed. The White House says in an earlier meeting, the two presidents discussed trade, fentanyl, and Iran. British officials this morning say a ship anchored south of the Strait of Hormuz has been seized. No word who has taken it, but the ship now appears to be sailing toward Iran. Russia keeping up its drone and missile attacks on Ukraine. At least 4 people killed in the capital of Kyiv. Ukraine's president says Russia has fired over 1,500 drones just since yesterday. The American doctor who initially tested positive for hantavirus now testing negative. This is ABC News.
Still no accidents or anything major to report on the roadways on your way into town this morning. Everything still looks clear. No volume delays or buildups anywhere in the major interstates on the way into Nashville. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7.
See, that's the way you do it, Sam. That's the way you do it. You make a lot out of nothing. Good job on that traffic report, Sam. Well done.
WTN.
I mean, I tried to give a guy a compliment, and he just blows me off. Whatever, Sam, then you're the dunce. That guy on the super text line was, I'm not the dunce, you're the dunce.
I'll build you a paper hat. I will put you in the corner with a cone hat with dunce spelled out across it.
Sure, that's why I've already got one. Thanks, though.
Was that a Miss Amy gift?
Pretty much. Pretty much. You know, to be honest with you, my dunce hat is really just sort of implied. You know what I mean? Anyway, moving right along. Joe, who the hell is Joe? I don't even know. Jay Harper is on his way
Joan,
in.
Shingang, I'm going to pronounce right. Shanga Kawawa.
Kawawa. By the way, if Joan Kawawa is listening anywhere, we want to know, the inquiring minds on the super text line want to know, where's the baby?
Yeah.
I mean, I would think the said baby has already been born. I mean, wouldn't it?
Independent America in the YouTube chat. I guess Joan won the race.
Yes. Yeah, my daughter's still at 2 centimeters, apparently. So she's going to be induced tomorrow. So after the show today, I'm headed on up to Indiana, where she is, and I'm going to be hanging out with Jameson while my daughter is off giving birth. So for about probably 24 hours, that poor kid is going to be tortured with me. You know, if he doesn't sleep, I'm going to do more monologues at him on China.
So when
I'll just start talking to him about China, put him right to sleep, like I just did for the first 30 minutes of the show.
When my baby sister was born, my grandfather had to be in charge of me, and he would pop wheelies on the wheelchairs that were left out in the hallways of the hospital with me in his lap.
See, that's the thing. Well, so here's my plan, and then I'll get back to business. But this kid, I mean, he loves Amy. Amy, unfortunately, is sick as a dog, so he's stuck with Grandpa. So my whole plan is to take his butt to the park and run him ragged so that he'll sleep most of the time. And that way he won't scream at me like he usually does. People say that he's afraid of me because of my bald head. I wear hats. I don't know why this child screams every time that he sees me, but he likes to, and I think it's probably just because I am uncomfortable, generally speaking, around most people, including small children.
You know, if it's the baldness, you know what you need? It's one of those Rasta beanies with the fake dreads.
Oh, yeah. Walk in, hey, man.
Then he's got something to pull on and distract, and it's not real hair, so then, you know, your scalp's not getting ripped out.
Hey, Jameson. Whatever. Moving right along. See, this is what happens when we don't have news, is we get distracted. By the way, real quick. So whose military is more viable? Whose military is more powerful, us or China? Well, clearly it is us. However, if we're talking about the waters between China and Taiwan, well, China has been planning to militarily take over Taiwan for years, decades, as a matter of fact. So they've got an entire military apparatus that is at the ready. So a lot of experts will tell you we may have more of the military, the weaponry, and all that kind of stuff. But from a strategic standpoint, in those waters, China could very well have the upper hand in that case. Anyway, Marco Rubio, you know, we started out talking about this Thucydides trap where a rising country is able to take over the dominant country, and that's what Xi Jinping had to say about this Thucydides trap, how we need to avoid the Thucydides trap. And a lot of people saying that was clearly a thinly veiled threat to America and to Donald Trump. This is what Marco Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, had to say about that.
My read has been what I think has been for a while, and that is China has a plan. I mean, they clearly view themselves, they believe they will be the world's most powerful country. They'll surpass the United States, and they have a plan to do it. And they're executing on that plan, and I don't blame them. If I were the Chinese government, I'd have the same plan. We, on the other hand, don't view it that way, and we don't want to see anything. We're not trying to constrain China, but their rise cannot come at our expense. Their rise cannot come at our fall. So there's an area where we're just going to have a difference of opinion. But my view of them and of the government in China is they're very confident. They have a plan, and they're trying to execute on that plan, which is fine. I understand that from a nation-state perspective, but when that plan is in conflict with the national interest of the United States, we need to do what's right for the United States. And that'll come up on this trip, but more importantly, that'll be a feature of this relationship for a long time.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. That is Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So the internet is alight with Xi Jinping, who apparently during this big toast, because we're talking about the toasts, Xi Jinping, and this is the interpreter, said that Donald Trump is making America great again.
Also, the 250th anniversary of American independence. The over 300 million American people are reinvigorating the spirit of patriotism, innovation, and enterprise, and ushering in a new journey for the development of the United States. The people of China and the United States are both great peoples. Achieving the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and making America great again can go hand in hand. We can help each other succeed and advance the well-being of the whole world.
There you go. So that is Xi Jinping apparently saying that he wants to make America, Donald Trump is making America great again. Now, Sean Hannity is actually in China with Donald Trump. This was on Fox News just a few moments ago, where Hannity is telling Fox News that there's actually been a lot of agreements thus far.
Success, right, Ainsley? Well, that's what you're hearing from Sean?
Yeah, so I talked to Sean this morning because it's easy. They're 12 hours ahead. So it's 6 o'clock in the morning here. It's 6 p.m. there. So they're getting ready for the state dinner. You see Dina Powell there on the left. You see Marco Rubio. We saw Scott Bessent. So I talked to Sean this morning, and he just finished interviewing President Trump, and that's going to air fully on his show tonight. But I said, what were the takeaways? And he said that President Xi will help with Iran. He said, quote, whatever Trump needs, committed to buy U.S. soybeans, more oil, LNG, which is the liquefied natural gas, and other energy. He agreed to buy 200 jets of the 737 MAX jets from Boeing. He said 200. Originally, it was 500. He surprised Xi, and he invited the president of China to go and meet with all of our U.S. CEOs, Lawrence.
All right, so there you go. Good news for the soybean farmers in Tennessee. Again, not to belabor that point, but there's a lot of soybean farmers in Tennessee that desperately do need the help. And if that is indeed what the president of China has agreed to, is buying more soybeans, that is great news for the state of Tennessee. So one of the super texters did ask this question, and it's a fair question. And that question is, okay, so if Donald Trump, for how long now, has been out there talking about limiting China's success and trying to hold China back, how is this doing that? I think part of this is if we can build up America, then that's what we're going to do. And if that seems to lift China, well, okay, but Donald Trump's most important goal is to build up America. And here's the other thing. There's something to be said for keeping your enemies close, right? And I think that this is clearly what it is. You need to keep your enemies close. Now, talking about China and spying, and are we spying on China as good as we are being spied upon by China? I don't think so. I was watching. Did you see this? So, Brett, see if you can find it. It's Brett Baer, and Brett Baer from Fox News. He was on the streets of China and in Beijing, and he said there are literally cameras everywhere in China. So, I mean, let's be honest. They don't have any expectation of privacy in China, obviously. And so this is something where if you know anything about China, they spy on not only us, but they also keep a very close, watchful eye on their own people. So the question is, how well do we spy on China? Do we have people in China that are embedded in China, embedded in Beijing like they have people like the mayor of Arcadia, California? Do they have people embedded here in America? Do we have people embedded in China? And I don't know the answer to that question. That is something that, frankly, we don't talk about. And we shouldn't talk about it because, you know, we're not going to announce that we have a bunch of spies embedded in China. I'm going to assume, though, that we do. We're going to have a little bit of fun with audio. This is Donald Trump. And by the way, he is in full-on diplomatic mode. This is Donald Trump. He just got done. Again, Xi Jinping and Donald Trump, they were toasting each other. And I guess this is a big deal, whatever. It's all diplomatic talk, and I don't trust any of it. But, you know, this is what Donald Trump had to say to Xi Jinping.
As allies in World War II, President Franklin Roosevelt's mentions of the brave people of China, that's what they were, drew loud cheers in his speeches in the United States, and everybody loved what he had to say. Just as many Chinese now love basketball and blue jeans. Chinese restaurants in America today outnumber the 5 largest fast food chains in the United States, all combined. That's a pretty big statement.
Yep, that is President Donald Trump talking about the greatness of America. It does seem like both sides are saying that, yes, we can work together to make both of our countries great and continue to prosper. Again, I'm just going to tell you, I don't trust China. As far as I can throw them, I certainly don't trust Iran either. And when you've got China where they buy, how much is it again? 1.38 million barrels of Iranian oil every single day. So it is great news that, you know, they're going to be buying some oil or some oil products from us, maybe some gas products, whatever. That is certainly very good news. They're going to be buying some soybeans from America. That is going to help Tennessee farmers. Market access for U.S. businesses and technology. That is a great deal. That is a great deal as well. Technology and U.S. businesses. We'll have to see what happens. There is a lot of behind the scenes wrangling going on. We'll continue to monitor. Let's see here. Let me play one more. Yeah, let me play one more soundbite from Xi Jinping. And again, this is the interpreter and let me do this. Let me play. This is Xi Jinping in the toast, or his interpreter. This is the toast with Donald Trump. Here is that audio.
Today, President Trump and I had in-depth exchanges on China-U.S. relations and international and regional dynamics. We both believe that the China-U.S. relationship is the most important bilateral relationship in the world. We must make it work and never mess it up. Both China and the United States stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. Our two countries should be partners rather than rivals. President Trump and I also agreed to build a constructive China-U.S. relationship of strategic stability to promote the steady, sound, and sustainable development of China-U.S. relations and bring more peace, prosperity, and progress to the world.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting is, and you just heard Fox News, where they are relaying that Sean Hannity spoke to Donald Trump and that China has said that they will help end the war in Iran, but Donald Trump has been saying, well, we don't need China's help. So that is a little bit of an inconsistency. But remember, what Donald Trump and all foreign leaders, it's not just a President Trump thing, but, all leaders will say things in public, but in private it might be different. And I bet you, here's what I bet happened. Am I right on this? Here's what I bet happened. Donald Trump said, listen, China, we don't need your help in ending this war. We've got this well under control. But I think perhaps what happened is China's feeling the pinch. I mean, I've talked to multiple experts on this. China's feeling the pinch because they do buy over 1 million barrels of oil a day from Iran. And so with Iran currently having their issues in being able to sell oil to China, that is really pinching China. So China, more than likely, Even though Donald Trump is saying we don't need your help, I think China is saying, what can we do to help end this war? Because, again, Iran is most certainly feeling the pinch, as is China, as is Europe. So we'll continue to monitor the progress. It is 5:50 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we've got a lot more straight ahead. .554 Super Talk and 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends, and welcome on in to Nashville's Morning News. And we've got a lot to cover for you today, and always appreciate you being here. By the way, Jonathan Fahey is going to be joining us at 6:35 here on Super Talk 99.7. Congressman Andy Ogles has been making the rounds. He'll be with us at 8:06 on Super Talk 99.7. I do see Jay Harper is in the newsroom. Jay, are you going to be ready by 6? That's all I need to know. Otherwise, and I can't hear Jay. If Jay wants to, hey, Sam, you want to get Jay's?
Yeah, Dan, I think I can make it.
Okay, so it's from a timing perspective, I need to know if we're going to be live or on the network. So Jay's going to be live from the studio. Thank you, Jay, and appreciate you showing up. As Joan, she apparently all is well in Maryland, and she is now a grandmother, I believe, yet again. So if we end up hearing from Joan, we'll be sure and let you folks know how it went. You know, we were talking about the spying that China does on America and our spying on China. And I was referencing that Brett Baer audio and video. This is on video where he's talking about the widespread surveillance that we see in China. Watch this.
Big Brother
and
is
listen.
watching. There are literally cameras everywhere in Beijing. We are outside the Haidian station, and I can count at least 20 on this corner. In fact, in Beijing, they've added 1,500 cameras just this year alone. They see everything. There's nobody jaywalking here because they could get a ticket right away. In fact, our driver parked illegally for 2 minutes, and he got a message on his phone that he got a ticket for about $40 US because they saw it on the camera. Now, there are real questions what the CCP's goal is about citizen tracking and social scoring. They say it's to make everybody feel safe. These cameras are watching every minute. They're everywhere. And while they're watching us here in China, we hope you continue to watch. Special report from Beijing.
Ah, there you go. So, Brett Baer. Do you know what this is so dumb. So as a child of the 80s, I don't know, you remember that song? I always feel like somebody's watching me. Remember that?
Yeah. I didn't realize Mickey Mouse sang it.
That was going through my head when I. Anyway, so there you go. 5:56 on Nashville's Morning News. The by far everyone is saying no, we cannot trust China. The other thing that and then after 6 I'm going to go on to something else, but one of the things that Xi Jinping says is that he wants us to be partners rather than rivals. Well, I bet he does, because let's be honest, even though our economy is having some issues in its own right, China's had a lot of problems with their economy. China does have a lot of issues. And so for Xi Jinping, I think they need us more than we need them. However, we do have our two economies. They do depend on each other. I mean, we get a lot more. I would say if you look at our respective economies, China gets a lot more from us than we do from China, particularly, when you start talking about oil and how China gets a lot of their oil from Iran. So now they are more dependent not only on us, but other nations as well as it relates to oil. So how much do we want to help China? And will the help that we give China, will that help balance out what we're going to get from China? Is it going to be equal? Because that's the whole thing. I mean, I don't want to make China great again. I don't know if they've ever been great, but I mean, they are, let's face it, they are a definite dominant world power. I don't want to add to China's strength, even if it does help us a little bit. I don't want to give China a huge leg up. You know what I mean? Because make no mistake, China is the enemy. You cannot trust China. China is the friend of our enemies. China, they're friends with Russia. They're friends with North Korea. They are friends with Iran. So unless China is willing to ditch all of our enemies as allies, then what are we doing? Do we really want to make China stronger? Do we really want to aid in making China even greater at our own peril? Because definitely world domination really is the only thing that China truly cares about, is world domination. Right now, which country in the world is the most dominant? That's us. We are the top dog. And so how much do we want to help China become the top dog and we end up becoming number 2? Especially when we look at everything that China has done to us in the past, including, again, not to belabor the point, all the spies in our country, all of the intellectual property theft as well. We could talk about what we discussed yesterday with the biological hazardous labs, the biological labs that were hazardous, had all that hazardous material in it. That all is courtesy of China.
China.
So I would be very careful, Donald Trump, if I were you, because no, we cannot trust China. They always say one thing, but they always do something else. It is 6 o'clock on WTN.
Good morning. It is 6 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We'll get you a full weather forecast and a traffic report here momentarily. Well, Dan's been talking about it this morning. In China, President Trump saying he'd seek to deepen economic and diplomatic ties with Beijing. Meanwhile, Chinese state media reports that President Xi Jinping warned Trump that disagreements over Taiwan, which Beijing claims as part of its territory, could bring the two countries into conflict. Attending a state banquet following their talks earlier today, both presidents described their meeting as productive. President Xi speaking through a translator.
Today, President Trump and I had in-depth exchanges on China-U.S. relations and the international and regional dynamics. We both believe that the China-U.S. relationship is the most important bilateral relationship in the world.
Back here in the U.S., for an Air Force Reserve crew in Florida, a day of routine training quickly turned into a life-saving rescue mission. ABC's Rena Roy has details.
A small plane flying between islands in the Bahamas suffered engine failure. The pilot sent a distress signal before crashing 50 miles off the coast of Central Florida. The crew spotted a raft filled with passengers. They expected as many as 8 people. They found 11. The crash survivors had been in the water for 5 hours, some with injuries, unclear if help was coming. The crew airdropped survival kits as a helicopter hoisted each of the 11 to safety, completing the rescue with only 5 minutes of gas left, flying back to Florida.
Now let's turn to this morning's money news, brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. You can find them at beaconcm.com.
The next time the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors meets, there will be a new face at the head of the table. The Senate has approved President Trump's nominee, Kevin Warsh, to succeed Jerome Powell, who will still keep his seat on the board, just not as chairman. Warsh inherits an economy steeped in rising inflation. Prices at the wholesale level were up last month 6% compared to April a year ago. The jump was largely driven by higher food and energy costs. That soaring producer price index weighed on the Dow Jones Wednesday. The Dow finished off 67 points at 49,693, but rising tech shares pulled the S&P and NASDAQ to new records, the S&P rising 0.6%, the NASDAQ 1.2%. Plaid is flying off the shelves. British luxury outerwear maker Burberry watched its sales grow 2% over the fiscal year, boosted by a 10% growth in the Americas and China in the latest quarter.
Now let's take a look at the stock futures before the opening bell. The Dow up 294, the S&P up 16 3/4, the NASDAQ it's up 62 1/4. That's the latest news, weather, traffic. They're up next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. No accidents or breakdowns to report currently. However, we are beginning to see the normal congestion building at the 6524 junction there north of Trinity Lane, and also the junction at the, where 440 hooks up with I-24. We're starting to see some congestion there as well. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.606 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Hope you're doing well, and welcome on in to a Thursday. It is May 14th. President Trump in China. People are saying, you know what? We just did I don't know. Was it a whole hour on China? I apologize. The whole hour on China in the 5 o'clock hour. But here's my prediction. There's going to be stuff that they agree to, that President Trump and Xi Jinping, there's going to be stuff that they agree to through these negotiations that are going to be great for America. We'll be very excited. And then there's going to be other stuff that it's like, why are we agreeing to this? For example, you know, there was the conversation about allowing in all of these Chinese students. Remember all that? Now, I don't know if that was a trial balloon or whatever, but I haven't really heard much about that since. And I forget the exact number. It was in the hundreds of thousands, I think, where Donald Trump said, oh, yeah, let's, allow in all of these Chinese students. And we were like, no. But yeah, Donald Trump talked about that. Should we allow China to come into our country and build more factories and manufacturing? All of these things are up for conversation. And there will be stuff that we like, and there's going to be stuff that we don't like. We'll just have to see ultimately what happens. But we'll continue to monitor. Jay Harper's in the WTN newsroom, and we will continue to monitor everything that is going on in China. Here this morning, it is 6:08 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Deborah Moody. Now, we all remember Deborah Moody. Now, she was the state lawmaker who was verbally assaulted by that horde of viral, awful people outside of the state capitol. You remember this. This is, by the way, audio only.
Racist! You racist pieces of shit! You!
Remember this? 69-year-old woman being assaulted verbally by a bunch of... A lot of things I want to say and I can't.
Racist pieces of shit!
Has media covered this yet? If somebody could, have you seen anything? And Jay, you can chime in here. I know that you watch local media. Have they covered this story yet of the 69-year-old Deborah Moody being verbally assaulted and attacked outside of the state capitol by all of these people? I mean, it's a horrifying sight, saying all the most vile things and calling her a racist and all that. I don't know. If anybody on the super text line, and if you could monitor it, Sam, has anybody seen this yet covered by the local media? As far as I know, WTN has been the only media outlet that has been covering it. I mean, there's probably, maybe Michael Patrick Leahy has covered it, but other than that, I don't know. But that went on for like 10 minutes as she was trying to get around. And thankfully, she had an escort that would lead her to safety. Well, Deborah Moody was on with Matt Murphy yesterday. That's right. She was on with Matt Murphy, and he and I were both vying to get the interview. I'm glad one of us did, and Matt did a great job on the interview. I honestly believe that if it were not for her escort, she would have been physically assaulted. That's what I believe these kinds of people do. And so she was on with Matt Murphy yesterday, and she definitely took the high road. This is Deborah Moody and what she had to say.
Do you have any message for them, the people that were just screaming these nasty things to you? Is there any message that you want them to hear from you?
I think, it broke my heart, really. It was kind of frightening, of course. But I just kept thinking it was just with the so much anger. And I thought, all I knew to do was I just tried to turn my heart toward praying for them. Because, when someone is that angry, there's nothing you can say at that moment. And I think we see so much anger in our society and all, it just drives me more to, trying to be sure that I'm right, that I'm right with God, and that if I can be of help to somebody, that I want to be. And I want to help be a solution and not part of the anger.
Definitely taking the high road. And I got to tell you that there is nothing wrong with being angry at what Deborah Moody went through. I appreciate the fact that she says that she does not want to be part of, really what has turned into this cycle of anger, right? So, you have Justin Pearson, and make no mistake, all of these just vile, reprehensible people that are screaming at a 69-year-old woman, threatening a 69-year-old woman, they were acting on behalf of the two Justins and Gloria Johnson. Just make no mistake. They may have been screaming the vile, reprehensible words, but they were speaking for the two Justins and Gloria Johnson. And there is no way to properly describe what happened outside of the state capitol other than to say that these people, the absolute worst of us, and to me, when I hear stuff like this, I see these types of things and the local media won't cover it. Clearly, we, on our side, we're doing something right. If we're pissing these people off, then we're doing something right.
Well, that's just one cut. Like, there's other clips of her earlier or later on in her walk out of more hurled obscenities. I think someone was like crying out something like, I hope your daughter gets like sexually assaulted essentially or something. Right. Yeah.
I hope your daughter gets raped is what I heard.
It's absolutely disgusting. But we're not going to talk about that because she's an old white woman from the South and she doesn't deserve to be, recognized for
defended.
what she's gone. Yeah.
She won't be defended. And, my question is, if you look at the video, a lot of these people are black. So because it doesn't fit the narrative that the media is trying to sell, they're not going to cover it. And I think that is reprehensible. I mean, there's no other way that I can describe or analyze why this is not a story. Can you imagine if it was a black woman and a bunch of white people? That's the only thing that I can think of. I don't know. Somebody else, please tell me why this isn't being covered. There's a lot of very good investigative reporting going on here in the state of Tennessee, in the city of Nashville. The lack of interest in this story is just baffling to me. It is. Is it because there is a racial component to it? I don't know. But I consider myself a professional question asker, and that's a question that I'm asking. And by the way, to not cover something because of skin color is actually racist, right? I covered it to draw attention to the vile acts and the words of a bunch of evil people. And I would have covered it whether it was white people or black people, reversed roles, whatever. I would have covered it.
And you have. When we've had Memphis Safe Task Force, where it came about, who did we have on? Pastor Kenneth Whalen to talk about it.
That's
and
exactly
then
right.
Another community leader, his name escapes me, God forgive me, but he was working in the inner city with these youths and trying to foster a better culture for the black youth in Memphis.
Yeah.
It's not about the color of your skin, it's about the content of your heart.
Yep. I care about behavior and character. And clearly these people have no character. But you know who does have character? Deborah Moody. Listen to this cut. Again, Matt Murphy yesterday.
I hope that if they have a prompting in their heart about what they did, that maybe it wasn't right, or there's someone in their life that can speak to them, that they would listen and take it to heart, because I did not do that. That vote was not in anger against anybody, something that seemed right to do for our state. And I do hope that they find peace and they can find happiness in some way for the rest of their lives and for their sake.
Love it. Deborah Moody. She is somebody, and she is now retired. Good on her. And frankly, I would want to be retired too if I had to go through that. Coming up, incredible, amazing words from none other than Wesley Hunt. And really, it's his message. If you listen to it, it's really a message to Justin Pearson, Justin Jones, Gloria Johnson, and all the other race baiters that are in our country. That amazing audio from Wesley Hunt is coming up. It is 6:16. Time to check the roads on WTN. Very good. Thank you. As far as your weather goes for today, Thursday, May 14th of 2026, mostly sunny today and a high of 72. Going to feel like 78. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Wesley Hunt is a congressman, and he is, I guess, on some sort of a committee when he said these words, but these are words that have to be heard. He's black, just so you know. He's also a military guy, and he is out of the state of Texas. I play his audio and his video often because he makes a lot of sense. This is a black man, and he's talking about all of the race baiting that is going on in our country today.
I'm seeing a lot of talk from my colleagues on the left, too, as we shift toward this reinvigorated talk about Jim Crow and the past of this country. And as someone who is a direct descendant of a slave, as someone whose great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation, I can assure you slavery is over. Jim Crow is dead. When I go anywhere, I don't see any white-only signs. I don't, I promise you. I am a black man that represents a white majority district in Texas. The great-great-grandson of a man born on a plantation stands before you today as a proud conservative Republican from Texas, as a believer and follower in Christ, and as a believer in what this country can be if we allow equality for not just Muslim Americans, not just Buddhist Americans, but also Christian Americans like yourself. God bless you, young man. You give me a lot of hope for the future of this country. Thank you for having the courage. I yield back the remainder of my
Yeah, there was some hearings going on at the time, and there was some young men. There's some audio and video out there of Jamie Raskin going back and forth with one of these young men. I don't know exactly what they were talking about, but Raskin wouldn't even let the poor kid get in a word edgewise as they were debating the Constitution. So I don't have time to do that part of the story, but I love what Wesley Hunt had to say. And it's, hey Jay and hey Sam, do you know how you know that you're getting old? When you're looking for a way to describe the people that were surrounding and verbally assaulting and attacking Deborah, and the only words that I could come up with were, you're gonna love this, hooligans or ruffians.
Ruffians.
This is what, if you go back and you listen to that monologue as I'm talking about Deborah Moody, and I'm playing that just horrific audio of all of those, young adults who are screaming at Deborah Moody, I'm looking for the right word. And the only thing that I could come up with was hooligans and ruffians. What the heck is wrong with me? Now, Jay, if I were to ask you, Jay, if I were to ask you, as we're playing this audio, right? How would you describe it? What word would you describe these people? I'm listening to this, and I have some notes, but not a lot. And I'm like, do I call them hooligans or ruffians? What do I call these people?
Well, angry mob would come to mind.
Yeah, angry mob would have been good. What would you say, Sam? Because we gotta, I can't curse.
But hooligans works though.
Well, Jay, how old are you, Jay? I love you. How old are you, Jay?
I am 65.
Okay, so number one, Jay, I hope I look and sound as good as you at the age of 65.
Well, thanks.
Both Jay and I come up with hooligans. Now, I don't know what. I would like to call them a-holes, but I can't.
Well, you just.
I could. I think I just did.
I thought you were going to say punks.
Yes.
It wouldn't have been my choice, but.
Okay, punks is almost as bad as hooligans.
Right.
And whatever. Anyway, what would you call these people if you were on the radio? Because I can't curse, and because there's a lot of things I could call them, but I don't want to curse.
I know exactly what I would call them.
I don't want to get myself into trouble either. So.
A bunch of low IQ individuals.
Low IQ individuals. That's exactly right.
Very dumb people. Not very bright people, those people.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Well, you can you can tell by the level of their language that they're not very bright. It is 6:22. Jay, who is very bright, despite the fact that he and I both agree that as a couple of old guys, we would use the term hooligans. Hey, Jay, is there any hooligans in the news?
Well, yeah, I guess there are. They caught a couple of hooligans in Laverne using those traffic cameras, and kind of an interesting story. We'll also have more on this, what's going on in China. That's all coming up at the bottom of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
628, Nashville's Morning News. Jay, I can always count on WTN Nation because I was trying to describe, what word would I use to describe these vile creatures outside of the state legislature. And because you and I, of course, being a couple of old guys, came up with hooligans. Dirt balls is what one person says. Gutter snipe says another one. Punk A B's said several. A lot of people said scumbags. Keith says ignorant thug wannabe. Let's see here. Ethically bankrupt. Another person says I would call them scum. Nitwits as well. Guy sent in some audio. Guy says his name is Clint. This is what he says. Punk. That's what he says. Clint says he would call them punk. Punk. That's what he.
Yeah, sounding amazingly like Clint Eastwood.
I know what you're thinking there.
Yeah.
Did I fire 5 shots or 6?
That's exactly right.
You got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky?
Do you know I've never seen that movie?
What?
I know the scene. That's Dirty Harry, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I know the scene. Punk. But I've never actually seen the actual movie. But who would have thought that Clint Eastwood is listening all the way from California, and he sent in a voice recording on the super text and said, I would call these people punk. There you go. That's what I would do.
Okay, well, your homework assignment's to watch that movie with Jameson.
Oh. I'm sure that Jameson's
Is he having
mom,
a brother or a sister, by the way?
He is having a brother.
Okay, it's even better. He can start using that line on his brother.
Yeah. Punk. All right, got to go. 6:30 WTN.
It is 6:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, a full forecast, and a traffic report coming up. In China, President Trump saying he'd seek to deepen economic and diplomatic ties with Beijing. Meanwhile, Chinese state media reports that President Xi Jinping warned Trump that disagreements over Taiwan, which Beijing claims as part of its territory, could bring the two countries into conflict. Attending a state banquet following their talks earlier today, both presidents described their meetings as productive.
From the beginning, our citizens have shared a deep sense of mutual respect. Founding Father Benjamin Franklin published the sayings of Confucius in his colonial newspaper, and today sculpture recognizing that ancient Chinese sage is carved into the face of the United States Supreme Court very proudly.
Back here in the U.S., actually back here in Middle Tennessee, 2 suspects are facing multiple felony charges after a police pursuit in Laverne led to the recovery of drugs, stolen firearms, and a machine gun conversion device. The Laverne Police Department said officers located a vehicle tied to active warrants after receiving a traffic camera alert. When police tried to stop the car, they took off and they didn't drive nicely. Police said that spike strips were deployed to slow the vehicle down before it hit a police car. 2 people then took off on foot, but they were taken into custody pretty quickly. During the investigation, police recovered a stolen gun. It was equipped with a machine gun conversion device. They also found another handgun as well as 28 grams of crack cocaine, along with powder cocaine, Adderall pills, drug paraphernalia, this all according to authorities. Yes, they are now facing numerous charges. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis. For my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, when your home needs comfort you can count on, call the pros at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. I've been a customer for years. Now, they've always got terrific ways to save you money. Right now, you can take advantage of special financing on new HVAC systems with up to 12 months, no payment, and no interest. No prepayment penalty either. Approvals are going to vary by credit. Now, here's the sweet deal. You get a free Yeti Tundra 45 cooler when you install a 17 SEER or higher high-efficiency HVAC unit. If you want healthier air, the Healthy Hive Exclusive gives you an electronic air cleaner and whole home UV system. Now, regularly, that's going to run you $27.99. Right now, though, with Busy Bee, that's going to run you just $22.99 installed. That is going to save you $500. Now, Busy Bee is going to handle all those TVA rebates for you as well. Get $800 back on mini split systems, $500 to $800 back on heat pump systems, even a $50 rebate on AC tune-ups. Check them out, 615-775-7833. Tell them Dan told you to reach out, 615-775-7833, busybeehvac.com.
We're actually looking pretty good on area roadways. No accidents or breakdowns to report. We still, of course, have the normal backups in the normal spots, namely 6524, the 6524 junction north of Trinity Lane. It's moving there, but, you know, it's kind of clogged up. Also, the same starting now, coming down from 65 near Vietnam Vets. We're seeing a little bit of a clog there as well. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, Jay and Sam, there's a great debate going on in the YouTube chat between Cosmo and Travis. You know what the debate is? Is it harder to be a woman or a man? Now, I don't know about you, Jay, but it's clear which gender is harder to be. What would you say, Jay?
Oh, goodness. I would go with the female
All right.
gender.
And what would you say, Sam?
You know, as a graduate with a communications degree, I need to break this into context.
Right.
In the contextual
We know that
model
you're
of
not a
communication.
biologist.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, here's the thing. If you're married, it's harder to be a woman. If you're single, it's harder to be a man.
How do you figure that? Jonathan Fahey, I'm going to get to you in a second. How do you get to that?
Well, I mean, who has the highest rate of suicide? Men. If you look at that number more broadly, it's focused mainly on single men. I mean, Is it why are they committing suicide? it's hard to be a man, especially if you don't have a support system. Your wife is your support system. That's why it's harder to be the woman, because you got to put up with a, crotchety old dude. But if you're a single man, it's on you to make your life happen. You don't necessarily have someone that's going to foster your hopes and dreams.
I bet you the crotchety old dudes use the term hooligans.
Probably. You're a crotchety old dude.
Anyway, I'm not a crotchety old dude. Just don't ask my wife that question. All right. So 6:38, Nashville's Morning News. By the way, clearly it is harder to be a female than it is a male. And I would say, regardless of what you say, Sam, I think it is, just from a biological standpoint, I think it's harder to be a female. Because females have to do the whole, Mother Nature thing. And as we all also know, it's, the females that have to give birth. And as most men anyway know, if you've been in the delivery room, that tends to hurt. And there's a lot that goes. Your body is absolutely destroyed when you have kids. Like you know that it is near impossible for a woman's body to recover after having kids.
Yeah.
I mean, so women definitely have it harder.
Yeah, if it were up to men to give birth, the human race would have been extinct long ago.
Well, and here's the thing: is that men can say, "Oh, you know what, honey? If I could do it for you, I would." Knowing, of course, we'll never have to.
No,
we ain't no seahorses.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, Jonathan Fahey. What do you think? Is this something you want to dive into? Is it harder to be a man or a woman these days?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add here. And I don't have the experience of both, so I don't know.
Very good. All right, spoken like a true politician. All right, Jonathan Fahey joining us on Super Talk. By the way, Sam, why don't you make that into a Daily Dan poll, if you would? Is it harder to be a man or a woman? The people on YouTube, they can chime in. Anyway, Jonathan, always great to have you on Super Talk 99.7. One of the things, and of course, people know you've been on my show a lot, former acting director of ICE, among many other things in the Trump administration. Number one of the things that, as Donald Trump is in China right now, is the president, of course, mentioning the fentanyl coming across our southern border. And, it comes from China, the ingredients go into Mexico, then it's the fentanyl is constructed, if you will, put together in Mexico, comes across our southern border. So that is something that you know about all too well. One of the statements that I made in the 5 o'clock hour was, we've had presidents for as long back as I can remember asking for China's help in curtailing the ingredients of fentanyl going to Mexico, where it then comes across our southern border. We can't trust China to really do anything about that, can we?
I don't know that we could trust them to do it out of goodwill, but I think President Trump, could use it as, a way with other leverage points to get them to do something, because I think we all know, the one thing about China being this, authoritarian state, they know every single thing that's leaving their country and getting out of their country. So if they want to stop it, they can. And I think President Trump will emphasize this heavily because it's always been, both in the first term and this term, a very important issue to President Trump. So I think he will emphasize it in a way that hasn't been emphasized before, and hopefully tie it to other things that benefit China.
Okay, so now here comes the crazy question, and I don't know if anybody really knows the answer to this question, but is there anything that Xi Jinping, the president of China, could do to curtail that fentanyl coming into our country? Like, is it something that the government is doing? Is it something, because what I read, because I've read all kinds of different things on this, because, for me, the fentanyl coming across our southern border is just something that I've covered for many, many, many years, particularly living in Southern California for as long as I did. So is this something that the Chinese government is doing? Is this something that organizations within China are doing as the government is looking away? Could Xi Jinping actually, because I've seen all kinds of different scenarios on this, is this something that the government in China just looks the other way while it's happening? And it's sort of like a passive acceptance that this is what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think that's why they could do something about it, because if you know you're doing this in China and knowing the government's looking the other way or not paying particular attention to it, they're going to continue to do it. But if they knew if they got caught, they would face severe punishment, which you face in China for for crimes. And also, you have an authoritarian surveillance state. It's hard to get away with anything there if they don't want you getting away with it. So I think they could do a massive job, at very least, in curtailing it significantly, and I think really even eliminating it if they were incentivized to do so. And so I do think it's very important that President Trump continues to emphasize this as a critical issue because even though the numbers of drug deaths have gone down significantly, they're still hovering around 70,000 people a year, and a good chunk of that is from fentanyl and from China. So it's such an important issue for it hits at a very local level, and President Trump understands that deeply. So I think they can do more. They need pressure to do more, and I hopefully this trip, I think there's going to be some positive things coming out of this trip.
It's interesting. Jonathan Fahey is joining us on Super Talk 99.7. So talking about the trip, Donald Trump's trip to China. So one of the questions is, okay, so we're going to be negotiating with China, and ultimately the president has said oftentimes, what he wants is a weaker China. That is better for America. As we negotiate with China, we've got to find that sweet spot, I would assume, where, okay, you've got China and they need to get something out of the deal. We got to find that sweet spot where we are getting better of the deal. And even if it does help China a bit, it's got to come out in our favor. But, I mean, China, they're pretty good negotiators themselves.
Yeah, I think they're pretty good negotiators. And plus, we know you have to factor in the whatever percentage of cheating that will occur in any deal that we reach. And that's also the hard part when you reach these deals, whether it's soybean or anything else, that ultimately do they follow through with their commitment? Because, I think usually the United States is going to negotiate in good faith and attempt to follow through. So, yeah, but there's a lot of things we could get. We need things like rare earth minerals and things like that. They need chips, so I think there's a lot of things that can be achieved that would make both countries better. I don't think you could go in there. Obviously, President Trump is not saying we're doing this to make you weaker, but I do think ultimately the goal is probably to make us stronger. And if they get also benefit, that's still not necessarily a bad thing. I think the relationship going forward is something that's worthy of preserving because, we don't want to be openly in conflict with them because it doesn't help us economically and militarily. That's not a place and they want to go or we want to go. So I think, there's a lot of things that can be done, a lot of agreements that could be made, and they need us as their consumers because they make so much money off the American consumer. So there's a lot of leverage points that President Trump has with trade and everything else. And also you think of this, the situation in Iran with the Strait of Hormuz, that China's getting such a significant amount of their oil from Iran, and if they're not able to get it, and by the way, they're getting it at a discounted rate because remember Iranian oil was sanctioned, but they were getting it basically on the wholesale level. So China was getting quite a good deal from Iran, and they're not getting it now. So there's definitely a lot of things that could be done that, get some help from them or some pressure from them on the Strait of Hormuz that benefits both countries. Probably, who's to say who benefits more from it?
Yep.
But it's not a bad thing if two parties benefit from any sort of agreement.
646, Nashville's Morning News. More with Jonathan Fahey. Some really weird stuff going on in Virginia, as you know. We're going to talk about that straight ahead, and it's time to check the roads on WTN. Mostly sunny today, a high of 72, going to feel like 78. And appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Jonathan Fahey is joining us on Super Talk. All right, so Jonathan, for people that don't know, you are a highfalutin attorney and a lot of other things. You're on Fox News all the time, particularly Laura Ingraham. So one of the questions that I would ask as far as what is going on in Virginia, there's been the whole redistricting thing regarding the Virginia Supreme Court. Then we had Hakeem Jeffries coming out and saying, oh, what we're going to do is we're going to decapitate the Virginia Supreme Court and lower the age requirements. And so, we can basically get all of the, I'm going to air quote this, all of the old Supreme Court justices for the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, out of there. and we'll put in a bunch of new justices that will allow us to redraw the maps. And I'm assuming that whole thing now has just been put to bed.
Yeah, I think that's been put to bed. I think it was the reaction after the ruling, which, by the way, was a fairly predictable ruling. The court just followed the law on this. But it was kind of funny because after the ruling, you do think somebody got in a room and was like, okay, there are no bad ideas, guys. Let's come up with one. And then Hakeem Jeffries spoke up and they're like, well, other than that, there are no bad ideas, and there's got to be a better way to do it. But the Virginia Democrats and the Democrats nationally really took it on the chin here. And it's not just that they lost the issue, the redistricting issue. They wanted to go from a 6-5 Democrat split to a 10-1. The problem is they did it in a way that it was predictable they would lose. And okay, that's okay. You try and you lose. But they spent $70 to $80 million that they could have spent on other races to do so. So it was a major, major debacle. And I don't think people appreciate how bad it was, because if you were to take $70 to $80 million and spread it through the country in a strategic way, you could probably pick up more than 4 House seats if you're really smart about it. So the whole thing really didn't make any sense. And it ultimately really diminished Governor Spanberger, who's had really the worst tenure. She's been in office, I think, less than, 4 months or so since January, the worst start of a governorship that I can ever remember, because she's not only lost credibility with the left, she's got, lost it with the center as well, which was her selling point. So this whole thing was such an incredible debacle. If you just read the law, you knew what they did wasn't going to fly. And I think they were just hoping they could bully the Supreme Court once they got the referendum passed, and think they would be afraid to follow the law because, the Democrats would have a major tantrum. Unfortunately, they lost, get to have their tantrum, and now they're throwing out really bad ideas to, throwing good money after bad, or whatever the phrase is.
Well, hey, Jonathan, I got to ask you this. So we were joking about this yesterday, actually, about how on some of these court filings and so forth, the Commonwealth of Virginia, they sent it to the wrong court. I don't know if you saw this, but they sent it to the wrong court. And also, they had a bunch of misspellings in the paperwork as well. Did you see that? And I mean, as a highfalutin attorney, does that surprise you? It shocked me.
It's absolutely shocking, because it's not just a court filing that there's a mistake in, which is bad in and of itself, but this is a high-profile, significant matter. You think it would get the highest level of care and attention, and to have major, spelling, and you could forgive like a mistake or something, and we all do it, but to have that many of them in such a significant filing, and remember, they hired outside lawyers to also help them with this case, which is also funny that costs the taxpayers money. But yeah, it's just so bad, and it's just continuing to embarrass themselves over this, because there is zero chance the United States Supreme Court is going to even get involved in this, let alone get involved and allow them to prevail, because this is an interpretation of the Virginia Constitution that was done by the Virginia Supreme Court, and all they did was follow the law. So there's no role for the Supreme Court here anyway. It was just a fake filing in the sense that it was a real filing, but it was just to show their base that they're still fighting this, even though they have no grounds to fight it. And the funny thing is with, Jay Jones, which I'm sure we've talked a lot about when he was running, that this guy cannot even explain why this referendum was constitutional. He's been on CNN, and it's one of the most embarrassing things ever that he can't even say anything to support it and can't even defend it, other than it's something they really, really want, which isn't a good legal basis.
All right, last question. I know that the sanctuary city policies of the Commonwealth of Virginia have really come into focus. As a matter of fact, there's a House Judiciary Committee hearing that has been going on. Talk about what's going on in that hearing, and give us a little bit of background on the fact that there have been some illegal aliens that have murdered people there in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, so this hearing, the House Judiciary Committee hearing on sanctuary cities, and they're having people testify, like the Commonwealth's attorney of Fairfax County, who's the prosecutor, the sheriff of Fairfax County, also former Attorney General Jason Miyares, and a woman by the name of the mother of Stephanie Minter, whose daughter was recently killed by an illegal alien. And the focus is on Fairfax County, which you don't hear much about. It's not a big city and a high crime city, but is a total sanctuary county. And they have had 3 of the 4 first murders of this year in Fairfax County were committed by illegal aliens. And you put that on top of one of the last ones last year was an MS-13 member in December that was released by the Commonwealth's attorney. He had a lengthy record. It was known he was an MS-13 member, and he was released back into the community instead of turned over to ICE. And within 24 hours, he committed a murder, or at least he's charged with committing a murder in the same county. So it is one of the worst, I think, offenders as far as sanctuary cities. The sheriff in Fairfax County, I think they have released over 700 illegal aliens from the jail back into the community instead of turning them over to ICE. So 700 criminals that also were here illegally, they'd rather put them back in the community than have them kicked out of the country. It is so shameful. I expect a lot of fireworks. Brandon Gill's on the committee, so we're going to, I would expect some really strong questionings and detailed questionings for, some of the Democratic witnesses. But, you have this mother of a daughter that was murdered having to testify, knowing that her daughter should be alive if this Commonwealth's attorney had just basically done his job of prosecuting criminals and also cooperated with ICE. And the whole thing is so shameful.
It is shameful. And the thing is, the Spanberger, she comes in and she campaigns on being a moderate. Turns out she is a crazed liberal. We all knew that that's what was going to happen. And certainly, true enough, that is indeed what happened. But you're right. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats are getting a lot of crap for spending so many millions of dollars in the Commonwealth of Virginia, only to have the whole thing thrown out by the Supreme Court. And so with that, I will wish you a good day. Jonathan Fahey, always great to have you on. And where can people follow you on X?
John for Fairfax.
All right, John for Fairfax, and we'll talk to you again soon. Jonathan Fahey, even though a professional commentator like Jonathan Fahey refused to take a stand on whether it's harder to be a man or a woman, I was actually kind of shocked he hung me out to dry on that one.
I'm shocked he didn't plead the fifth as an attorney. I would have thought that would have been the best answer for him, because a non-answer can be contextualized as he doesn't want to upset a certain somebody.
Oh, do you think he didn't want to? Well, the safe answer, safe answer and the true answer is, well, it's harder to be a woman. That is the safest answer.
Yeah.
But it is also, in my opinion, the truest answer. Now, we did ask on the YouTube chat what is the what they think, and what did they say?
It's bouncing around, but the woman is leading at 56% of the vote.
That's it?
Yeah.
56% of the vote?
Yeah. It's bouncing.
All right.
It's down to 53 now.
Well, that is shocking to me. I thought it is an obvious answer. It's harder to be a woman.
Well, you got to take into account the amount of men that blame the 19th Amendment for things.
All right, we got to go. 6:56 on WTN. Got a lot more straight ahead. Jay Harper's got the news coming up at 7. Jay.
Yes, sir, Dan. Let me see here. Yes, we have got the latest on the China summit, of course. Also a battle over hiring practices in the NFL. And mayhem involving an SRO in a Rutherford County school. We'll have those stories at the top of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and if you're taking or thinking about taking a GLP-1 treatment for weight loss, my friends at Contours LLC, they can help you combine your GLP-1 with their ultra-slim red light technology to maximize those results and make you look even better. Now, Contour's red light technology works by using a red light at a specific wavelength and focal strength to penetrate through the skin into the subcutaneous layer of fat below the skin and tricks the cells to open a pore, liberating that trapped fat. Now, it does work instantaneously, without pain and without downtime. The technology is cleared by the FDA, and it's amazing. The red light technology helps you liberate the fat, but also tightens the skin. So it is a natural complement to anyone taking a GLP-1. Working together, you lose the weight and you lose the inches, and before you know it, it's a brand new you. So call and talk to my friends at Contours LLC about your GLP-1 results and see if adding their ultra slim technology would be a good 1-2 punch for you. Go try it right now for $99. You can reach them by calling 615-236-9960. 615-236-9960. Find them online, contoursllc.com. After all, what have you got to lose but inches? Avoid the headaches of a traditional home sale and move on your timeline with the guaranteed offer from my friends at Mark Spain Real Estate. Listen, friends, selling your home can be overwhelming, which is why who you work with matters. Now, my friends at Mark Spain Real Estate, they can help you sell your home hassle-free without the stress of putting your home on the market. Mark Spain Real Estate has been in the business for 30 years, and they know what matters most to their clients, a quick sale and maximum profit. Now, one of their satisfied clients, Chris, said, and this is a quote, selling our 16-year-old home was quick. Thanks to that guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate, we avoided the stress of showings, constant cleanings, and negotiations. Their guaranteed offer was beyond what we were hoping for. And you could be next. Now, Mark Spain Real Estate is the #1 most reviewed real estate company in the U.S. They've got over 13,000 five-star reviews. Trust them to sell your home fast and for top dollar. Find out what the guaranteed offer would be on your home. There's no obligation. Call them at 855-299-SOLD, 855-299-SOLD, or go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer on your home today. That's markspain.com and start packing.
Good morning. It's 2 minutes past 7 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A forecast and a traffic report are upcoming. The president, as we know, is in China, where state media reports that President Xi Jinping warned Trump that disagreements over Taiwan, which Beijing claims as part of its territory, could bring the two countries into conflict. ABC's Mary Bruce, she's with the president and reports that he and President Xi met for 2 hours earlier today.
China's beautiful.
Trump hoped to use their sit-down to seal deals on trade and technology, bringing along with him over a dozen American business leaders, including Elon Musk and Apple's Tim Cook. But those ambitions overshadowed by the ongoing war with Iran. China is one of Iran's closest allies, buying more Iranian oil than any other country. And while Trump has said he doesn't need President Xi's help to end the war, his own Secretary of State saying it topped the agenda. Trump pressing China to urge Iran back to the table and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, according to the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, 3 high school students face charges after an alleged altercation with teachers and a school resource officer. The sheriff's office in Rutherford County said that on Wednesday, the SRO Caleb Shadwick reported seeing a 16-year-old Siegel High School student repeatedly shove a teacher in the cafeteria. He responded, reportedly taking the student to the ground. The press release from the sheriff's office said the student continued resisting, prompting the SRO to handcuff him. As Shadwick escorted the 16-year-old to his office, a 17-year-old allegedly barged in, shoved the cop in the back, and proceeded to punch the officer in the face multiple times. The 17-year-old, he was ultimately pepper sprayed by another SRO and charged with felony assault on a first responder, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. The 16-year-old student was charged with resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. That's the latest news. Weather and traffic are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. We have picked up one crash. It's been moved over to the shoulder of I-40 eastbound. This is just past Stewart's Ferry Pike, so it is outbound of the city, not really affecting traffic all that much. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
708 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends, and welcome on in to a Thursday, May 14th. By the way, it is Friday for me because I'm heading up north to be with my daughter as she gives birth to baby number 2. Looking forward to that. I've checked in with Joan Jones, trying to find out what is going on with her daughter as well. I think it's a daughter-in-law. I think this, whatever. Anyway, so she is about to become a grandmother as well. Waiting to hear back from Joan on what is going on with her family in Maryland as well. We do have some good news. All right, don't start doing that. You're going to make me laugh. We do have some good news in the state of Georgia. How is it possible that baby has not been born yet? Joan Jones just texted me because she went to Maryland.
What the heck?
She goes all the way to Maryland. Her poor husband is driving to Maryland. And apparently Jolie is only 6 centimeters dilated, 90% effaced. Not sure what all that means, but no baby as of yet. So heavy breathing, ice chips, the whole thing. We'll keep you updated. And good luck, Joan. Prayers for your family. All right, so... hey, give me another Joan growl. Growl. Why are we growling? Because the state of Georgia, they have now decided that they are going to indeed redistrict. However, they're not going to do it until 2028. Yeah, that's a problem. So I got all excited that Georgia was going to redistrict, but then I saw that the governor for the state of Georgia, he is saying, well, yeah, but hold on, because we've already started early voting in our state. So what we're going to do is we are going to redistrict. However, we will redistrict, but it won't be effective until 2028.
In an extremely rare move, Governor Brian Kemp is calling lawmakers back to the Capitol for a special session.
It is to address some outstanding election issues, mainly a fast-approaching July 1st deadline set by Georgia's legislators.
Of course, after that Supreme Court decision last month that banned racial gerrymandering, they may also redraw Georgia's congressional maps for 2028. We have a presidential election that year. It is something Republicans badly want to do and something Democrats fear will dilute the votes of many minority communities.
So the redistricting arms race, this is what I've been calling it, does continue as the Republican governor is calling a special session. Ultimately, it could wipe out 2 Democrat-held congressional seats. The only problem, again, is that it's not going to be in effect until 2028. So in the midterm elections, not so much. The governor, again, saying the reason they can't get the redistricting set for this year is because early voting is already underway. And I actually understand that. But, you know, I would also say this. Stick these 2 seats in the bank for 2028. They'll be there for 2028 and beyond. And remember, when there is a new census in 2030, when we start really looking at the numbers and where people have moved away from, California, Illinois, the state of New York, I could go on and on. A lot of these Democrat-run states, they've been going to states like Tennessee, states like South Carolina, states like Florida. So if we get a true and accurate census count, then it'll look really good for the Republicans after 2030, and it'll look really bad for the Democrat states, Democrat-run states, because people, as you know, have been fleeing from those Democrat-run states. And by the way, when they do gerrymander, it'll be, going back to Georgia, it'll be a state with 11 Republicans and 3 Democrats. Right now, it is 9 Republicans and 5 Democrats. So this is going to be a very big deal. And by the way, with all of this going on, earlier this week, CNN's Harry Enton had a big-time warning, not for the Republicans, but for the Democrats, related to the midterm elections, with polling that is showing that the Democrats, they're not in a good position heading into the midterms.
I think this poll serves as a big-time reality check for Democrats, and that is, it ain't over yet, especially with the redistricting when we look ahead to the 2026 race for Congress. You would have thought that the Democrats' lead would expand on the generic congressional ballot. It didn't happen. Look, in March, Democrats were up by 6 points. Look at this now. Democrats are up by 3 points, and I want you to note the yellow lettering. No clear leader. It is within the margin of error.
There you go. So bad news for Democrats. And, we keep talking about this. And I'm a conservative. So I understand when I say that the Republicans, by and large, do we not win on the issues? I mean, clearly we win on the issues. Illegal immigration, men in women's bathrooms, mass deportation. The American people wanted all of those things. Now, I do understand that we're having issues with the war and gas and the economy, and I get that. Yes, we are. But I also think that when you look at not only the Biden administration and how bad that was, but also the crazed behavior of Democrats like we saw here in Tennessee, a lot of people are saying, I can't be part of that. I've heard people say, I've seen people say, you know what? That kind of behavior is abhorrent, and I'm not going to be a part of that. And so when it comes to behavior, quite frankly, when it comes to character, and when it comes to the issues, Republicans turn out on top, especially when you look at behavior. And I can look at, we were just talking to Jonathan Fahey, right? So in the conversation with Jonathan Fahey, we were talking about the governor for the Commonwealth of Virginia, Spanberger. Well, when I talk about character, I talk about a woman who ran on being a moderate, blatantly lied to the people that she was asking for their vote, blatantly lied to them. She comes in and she immediately turns into a just rampaging, crazed leftist. And there's a lot of people in Virginia that have voter regret, that have Spanberger regret. So when I talk about character, I'm talking about the lies of the Democrat Party. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the behavior. When I talk about character, I'm talking about the behavior of the two Justins here in Tennessee, the behavior of Gloria Johnson, the behavior of the Democrats in our state capital. That's what I mean. I'm trying to think if Republicans have ever done that. Any Republican lawmakers ever done that? Gotten on top of tables and, started dancing and stuff like we saw whoever that woman was. What was her name again?
Charlene Oliver.
Charlene Oliver. Yeah.
Charlene, that dress, out of season.
Anyway, so yeah, when I talk about the American people looking at the two parties and looking at the behavior and the character of the Democrats versus the Republicans, because you know what's going on right now, right? The haters are listening. Oh my gosh, Mandis is talking about the character of the Republicans. Don't you know about Donald Trump and the affairs? Yeah, I do, actually. I'm not, when I voted for Donald Trump 6 times, I wasn't, voting for someone who I wanted to be, my moral guidance. I wanted somebody to, run the country. But when we're talking about the behavior and the kind of stuff that we've seen, the Democrats on full display as far as the crazed reaction to the redistricting, Republicans didn't do that in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But they're doing that here in Tennessee.
I posed the question on when people want to talk about Trump's morality and standards and stuff. Is the starting quarterback on the high school team always the nicest guy, or is he just the best guy for the job?
He's the best guy for the job. Exactly. That's exactly right. Here's more from Harry Enton.
So despite all of the talk about Donald Trump's unpopularity, the fact is Republicans very much remain in the game when it comes to the congressional midterms, which are occurring in, 6 or 7 months at this point?
A lead of 3 points in the generic ballot test here. Does that get the job done?
No. Take a look here. Democrats in the national House vote margin. According to my estimate, what they need for control with redistricting in terms of the national popular vote is somewhere of a win between 3 and 4 points. What's CNN's current poll with no clear leader? It's a 3-point advantage. If this were, in fact, the actual result come Election Day, the race for Congress, the race for the House, would be basically a toss-up. And that is why the redistricting efforts that have been happening are so important. This game is most certainly not over. Republicans very much in the race for the House of Representatives. They're in that game.
There you go. By the way, one of the things that, despite the troubles that we're having with the economy, it's interesting to note that they were talking about who it is that the American people trust on the economy. And what's interesting is that Republicans and Democrats are basically tied at around 36%. Now, typically, that is something that the Republicans always are going to win on. But the fact that Joe Biden did such just massive destruction to the economy the 4 years that he was in office, it doesn't surprise me that, the two sides are tied, because people still do remember the problems that we had with the economy under Joe Biden and how they basically just blew it off, saying, oh, inflation, what is it, transitory? That was number one. It's a lot better than it is in other countries. That was number two. At one point, they were actually even trying to sell that inflation was a good thing. Remember that one? I mean, none of it made any sense. With inflation up over 9%. Boy, am I late. It is 7:18. Time to check the roads on WTN. As far as your weather goes, mostly sunny today and a high of about 72. Going to feel like 78. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I don't think I even finished what I meant to say a few minutes ago, which was this is for me Friday, because after the show today, I am heading on up to Indiana to be with my daughter as she gives birth to my second grandson. Looking forward to that. Brian Wilson will be in the chair. Well, not in this chair because he keeps breaking our chairs. That's why we let him broadcast from home, because he's such a large individual that he broke, I think, 2 of our chairs, as a matter of fact. So when he said, hey, can I work from... Yes, please. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey,
work
Brian,
from home.
If Dawn had made any cookies by chance for Dan and myself, don't bring them for Dan. Give me Dan's cookies.
You go right on ahead. I'm on a diet. 7:20, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Got a lot more straight ahead. Jay Harper has the news coming up at 7:30. Jay.
Yes, sir, Dan. Toasts in China. Yes, we'll tell you about that. Also, the war in Ukraine rages on, and a battle over hiring practices in the NFL. We'll have those stories coming up at the bottom of the hour.
Do you know what's so funny about my job?
What?
Is it when Jay works, I can see you, Jay, and I could tell when I say, hey, it's time to check the news with Jay, and Jay clearly surprised.
No, I'm not
surprised. He juts up out of the chair, and he's just like, oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that
Dan.
generally in this time of the morning is when you'll come to me, but it's not a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Just I'm working on other things.
You're looking at your phone. No. I can see you, Jay. Now, what you should say to me, Jay, is, Dan, I'm getting my headlines. That's what I'm doing on my phone, because our internet is so slow at WTN that I've got to get my news from my phone.
No,
that's what you need to say, Jay.
You're just acting like a hooligan, Dan.
Yes,
you
indeed,
ruffian,
Jay.
You ruffian.
Yeah, you punk, eh?
All right. Thank you, Jay, for showing up, and I very much appreciate it. 7:21. Dan Mandis here for my friends at the Covered Patio. Warmer weather means that you want to spend more time outside. If you want to add more living space to your home, think about building or upgrading your patio. Now, at the Covered Patio, they've got motorized screens so that you can easily keep the patio open when you want some more sun and closed when you want some privacy and some shade. So your back screened-in porch becomes a lot more enjoyable when you go through the Covered Patio and make it more livable. They've got a ton of outdoor living options at the Covered Patio with motorized screens, patio covers, custom wooden decks, and outdoor structures. They've got a ton of options with styles for every budget and every patio. The Covered Patio is dedicated to fair prices and customized solutions for your specific home and your specific pace. Enjoy your home a lot more with an incredible patio upgrade from the Covered Patio. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. 615-695-2407. 615-695-2407. Find them online, thecoveredpatio.com, thecoveredpatio.com. Dan Mandis here. I want to tell you about my friends at Loan Pronto. Credit card interest rates, they're now over 29%. And most people are making only the minimum payments, so they're getting nowhere in trying to pay off that balance. But, here's what a lot of homeowners simply don't realize, that using the equity in your home, you can easily access hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and pay off those high-interest loans. With Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan, you can pay off your credit cards, you can pay off your existing HELOC and your car loans as well, or get money simply for that home improvement project. Now, one client just got $100,000 approved and saved over $1,500 every single month with Loan Pronto. And with Loan Pronto, you can basically do it all from your phone with zero out-of-pocket expense, no hard credit pull up front, no appraisal, and no long, drawn-out bank process, and no touching your first mortgage. They make it easy. And right now, rates are near 3-year lows, so you've got to act right now. Go to loanpronto.com to see how much money you can get in about 60 seconds. Loan Pronto 2800, 5-star Google reviews, 615-499-5780. Visit loanpronto.com, 615-499-5780, loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, and MLSconsumeraccess.org. $7:27 on Super Talk 99.7, almost 7:28. Hey, Jay and Sam.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
I was ready. You didn't surprise me, Dan.
Thank you, Jay. By the way, I just love that I can have fun with you, Jay, so appreciate you tolerating me.
Yeah, man, it's all good.
So if somebody is addicted to meth and they lose their teeth, should taxpayers have to replace their teeth?
How about no?
Sam?
Yeah.
Jay?
Yeah, not only no, but hell no.
All right. Well, Karen Bass, L.A. mayor, disagrees with you.
How many people who are unhoused that you meet have no teeth at all? They don't have teeth. Why? Because meth rots your teeth. You can't succeed without teeth. So there needs to be comprehensive health care provided to people.
So that is now the latest controversy. There are so many controversies happening right now in California.
It's not the meth. Okay, that's not the problem. It's your teeth.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, you've got the fact that you have no teeth is more than likely the least of your problems, because if you are in California, you're unhoused, you are on all kinds of drugs. I mean, it goes on. And there's a lot of people in California that would honestly say, you know what they would say? They would say, we're already paying, what do you call that stuff that if somebody dies on the street from meth, I think it's meth, they give you the Narcan?
Narcan.
No, but that's for opioids. Meth is
whatever. But I mean, I'm saying you get the taxpayers in California.
Oh yeah, for the heroin addicts and
yeah,
fentanyl
they're paying.
people.
They're paying for the needles. They're paying for the Narcan.
The clean use kits.
They're paying for the clean use kits. They're paying for the open air drug markets and the places where they can, very safely shoot up their drugs.
Well, and testing them on animals and stuff like that.
Testing them on animals, and now they got to pay for the teeth,
which are just going to get sold for more drugs.
And here's the crazy thing. The crazy thing is that people of California, you know how much they're paying for like illegal aliens in their health care? It's crazy. Anybody lives there.
You didn't even touch on what the governor did in the prison systems. $180 million for inmates to have iPads to watch pornography and communicate with minors.
Yep. The libs of TikTok just posted something on that a few minutes ago. I mean, my goodness gracious. It's stupefying. Like, I'm a talk show host. There are no words to describe the lunacy of California. And I believe that is why you've got Dr. Oz and J.D. Vance and others who they held big press conferences yesterday talking about all of the massive fraud in California, because what they're trying to do is, number one, they're trying to clean up the fraud. But number two is they're trying to draw a distinction between the way the Democrats will govern in a place like California under Gavin Newsom, of course, a presidential candidate for 2028, and a state like, for example, Florida or Tennessee or South Carolina, et cetera, where we don't have the massive fraud that a California will, because we are run by a bunch of conservatives. Running late, 7:30 on WTN.
Good morning. It is 31 minutes past 7 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A forecast and a traffic report are coming up. In China, President Trump saying he'd seek to deepen economic and diplomatic ties with Beijing. Meanwhile, Chinese state media reports that the president there, Xi Jinping, warned Trump that disagreements over Taiwan, which Beijing claims is part of its territory, could bring the two countries into conflict. Attending a state banquet following their talks earlier today, both presidents described their meeting as productive.
I'd now like to raise a glass and propose a toast to the rich and enduring ties between the American and Chinese people. It's a very special relationship.
Search and rescue operations continue today at the site of a building collapse in Kyiv, where nearly a dozen people are reported missing. President Zelensky said in the post on X that Vladimir Putin was using the cover of the Trump summit in China to launch a devastating attack on Ukraine. ABC's Ian Pinnell has more.
At least 20 sites suffering damage in the city, including a school, according to President Zelensky. At least 15 killed and more than 130 injured across the country. Unusually, the barrage saw hundreds of drones attack Ukraine throughout the daylight hours, before overnight Russia following up with nearly 50 missiles. Zelensky in a post saying the attack showed the hollowness of Putin's comments last weekend, suggesting the war could be finishing, saying these are definitely not the actions of those who believe the war is coming to an end.
A legal fight over hiring for top positions in the NFL. Florida's Attorney General has issued an investigative subpoena to the league, claiming its diversity hiring practices violate state law. The dispute centers on the football's so-called Rooney Rule. Adopted by the NFL 20 years ago, it requires teams to interview external candidates who are persons of color and or women for top coaching and executive positions. Here's ABC's Rena Roy.
The dispute centers on the NFL's so-called Rooney Rule. Back in March, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer threatened possible legal action against the NFL unless it suspended the rule. The move prompted the league to revise parts of the policy, saying it expands the pool of candidates considered, adding final hiring decisions remain with each club. But Uthmeyer says those changes don't go far enough, saying yesterday in a letter to the NFL, "You assert the rule does not impose any hiring quotas. We are not convinced."
That is the latest news. Weather, traffic, they're up next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Dan Mandis here for the Wellness Institute of Nashville. You know, they've always got the latest and greatest technology, and right now, they've got Medical Bay 1. Now, what is Medical Bay 1? Well, Dr. Mitchell designed it himself. He's found that our cells underneath our skin respond to photons of light, whether we like it or not. It's innately made by God, and Medical Bay 1 can definitely help you heal. Now, Medical Bay 1 is a futuristic healing machine that massages your body while doing full-body lasers using red light, including near-infrared. It also adds stem cell stimulations for tissue regeneration and also uses photons of wavelengths for ultimate healing. Now, this is an amazing experience you've got to check out. It's like you're sitting in an Artemis-type medical bay, and it's going to light your cells for photon healing. So, launch your pain-free voyage today. You mention my name, you get access to Medical Bay 1, and you get $33 off of each visit. That's right, $33 off of each visit. It is the Epic Spinal Special. $33 off each visit when you call and mention my name, 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009. Website, painisbad.com to check it out, 615-246-5009, painisbad.com.
We are getting an unconfirmed report of a wreck involving a school bus. This would be Old Hickory Boulevard at I-65 North. Again, that is an unconfirmed report. We are looking to confirm that. Otherwise, 24 westbound just before Briley Parkway. The HOV lane is blocked due to a crash there. And 65 northbound, the off-ramp to McEwen Drive at exit 67, it's partially blocked due to a wreck. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.738 Super Talk and 99.7 WTN. No 1803. We cannot play a drinking game. Every time Dan says he's running late, you can take a swig. Have I been late today? I've been a little late today. You know, I'm a little off kilter because Joan's not here. You know, Joan is the mom of the show. She tends to run a pretty tight ship. And so when Joan's not here, then I tend to, you know, my formatics, my timing, just a little off base. No, you know, disrespect to you, Jay.
Sure, Dan.
I almost called you Joe. Anyway, moving right along. So apparently Davidson County, according to one of our listeners on the Super Text line, Davidson County gives tablets to inmates, just like in L.A. Now, in L.A., we're talking about this earlier because we were talking about Karen Bass and that whole thing. In Los Angeles, how many did you say? How many tablets did you say for the prisoners in L.A.?
90,000.
90,000. So they bought 90,000 iPads for these inmates, and they are using this. Oh. I don't want to say why because there's kids in the car, but you know what?
Some of these are death row inmates.
Death row inmates.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And the great thing about the story in L.A. is that they're circumventing the protocols so that they can look at, you know, bad stuff on the tablets or the computers, whatever they are. And so that's what they're doing. So you have inmates, more than likely these guys don't have a lot of great education, yet they're able to circumvent whatever protocols are in place so that they can look at porn as opposed to the approved content.
So
what does that tell you?
This is according to an article on Fox News. They also use the tablets to send lewd images of themselves from a state prison in Stockton. That was a confirmed report by Robert Murray. He told the newspaper about that.
All right.
And but many watch through a video chat application where an inmate can call someone on the outside who can put it on their TV and then just leave the iPad in front of the TV.
Do you know that Amy, did I talk about this on the air? Amy kept getting phone calls from a prison. And she never took the call. She's like, I don't know anyone in prison. And we were trying to figure out why somebody kept calling Amy from prison. And I don't know if we ever figured that out. She ended up blocking the number, but because, you know, when you get a phone call, it'll say who it's from. And it was some sort, I don't remember what prison it was, but she was telling me that she kept getting calls from a prison and she didn't take I tried to get her to take the call because I was just genuinely curious. Who the heck is calling you from prison? She wouldn't take the call. Whatever. Am I a bad husband for telling her, yeah, honey, go ahead, take the call from the prison?
So speaking of that, the guy they're interviewing for this article said he received a photo, certain kind of photo from I'll let the imagination play out, from a 22-year-old German psychology student who was, quote, hoping that I would share my story with her for a class project because he's in prison for some really nasty crimes. He also claimed he flirted with her for a while.
Yeah, and people are saying probably what happened, because I have a fairly high following on Facebook, Guy probably saw my my wife on Facebook and started to try to like reach out to her somehow and found her. So apparently it's all my fault. Anyway, moving right along from there. Hey, let's go to China. Actually, let's not go to China, but let's talk about China. Aisha Husni is in China for Fox News. We have a lot of news coming out of China, the discussion between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping.
They talked about expanding market access for American businesses into China. Remember, the president brought this delegation of 16 CEOs from different business and tech backgrounds. They also talked about wanting more progress on stopping the flow of fentanyl. That's something the president brought up. Now, the Chinese purchases of American agricultural products was also something that was brought up in these discussions. And President Xi expressed interest in purchasing more American oil to reduce China's dependence on the strait in the future. That's a really big takeaway. So we're going to focus on that as well. Also, both countries agree that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. And after reading through this readout, there was really nothing in there that said that China was going to help pressure Iran in any way to ending the conflict. We were wondering if that was going to come up.
All right, so that is Aisha Husni. It is interesting because there's all kinds of different angles on reporting this. Because on the one hand, you see a lot of people saying there's been a lot of great progress made between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. And I do understand that because some of the things that Aisha reported on, both sides agreed that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, market access for U.S. businesses and technology. That's why you've got Tim Cook and Elon Musk traveling with the president to China, Beijing. This is important to and I was talking about this in the 5 o'clock hour, selling more ag products to China. Soybeans. We have a lot of soybean farmers here in the state of Tennessee. And so that is great news for them because word is there has been some sort of an agreement. And you know how this works, right? They'll come up with an agreement to do something, and then the staff will kind of hammer out all the details. But if that is true, that we are going to work on more soybeans to China because, you know, with the tariffs and the tariff war and all that kind of stuff, you had China say, okay, you know what, then we're going to buy our soybeans from other countries. So they decided now, okay, if we got an agreement, some sort of an agreement, that is great news for Tennessee farmers because they can sell those soybeans to China, buying more oil for America. That is huge. China gets 1.38 million barrels a day from Iran. Compare that to America's 38,000 barrels per day that we sell to China. So it sounds like China is in agreement with America and with many people when you say, you know what, Iran, you're getting all this oil from a source that, frankly, they're not reliable. I mean, we all know that Iran, we know what they do with their money. They use that oil money to fund terrorism. And look what's been going on with this war. China's getting pinched. And so this is something, and I just saw a headline. The headlines are just, you know, rapid fire from CNN, all of these different talking points. And apparently Iran, and I should say China and America, everyone agrees that the Strait of Hormuz does need to be open. So there's a lot going on with the back and forth between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, everything that these two countries are trying to come to agreement on. But the other thing that I would say, though, and it's a very valid question, is we can't trust China. We certainly cannot trust Iran. So, and these are their allies, China and Iran, China and Russia, China and North Korea. They're all allies. And so that's a huge problem for me because we don't want to make China stronger. However, you got to find, as I said earlier, you got to find that sweet spot between, you know, making us a lot stronger, even if we help China's case a little bit. If it really does serve our country to work with China, I can see it, but right now, I'm just a little cynical. 7:45, actually 7:46. Running late. Time to check the roads on WTN. 747 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Can I just be honest? I'm a little kind of like Friday on the brain, even though it's only Thursday because I'm not going to be here tomorrow. And I'm leaving right after the show, heading up north to Indiana. So I'm already gone, if you know what I mean. But it is 747.
Like the Eagles?
Sure, just like the Eagles. By the way, I love this. 7287 talking about those 90,000 iPads probably have a voting app on them in California.
You go look for yourself on what they have on them. It's really gross. Really gross.
All right, moving right along. As far as China goes and what is going on there, Aisha Husney again reporting on what has been going on with these, very important talks going on between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. I think for the most part, this is something that the American people are looking at with, I would say, just a little bit of cynicism. The president, by and large, he got, really a king's welcome. I mean, they really did treat the president right when he came out. But, the biggest problem is that China's biggest priority is Taiwan. That is a big problem because for President Trump, he wants to talk about trade and he wants to talk about a lot of those kinds of things. And for, Xi Jinping, he wants to talk about Taiwan. Marco Rubio in this Fox News piece was talking about the priorities of America versus the priorities in China.
We've made the argument to the Chinese, and I hope it's compelling. The Chinese have ships stuck in the Persian Gulf because setting up a system that says we're going to let certain ships through but others not, it's easier said than done. It's a huge source of instability. It threatens to destabilize Asia more than any other part of the world. It's in their interest to resolve this. We hope to convince them to play a more active role.
Yep, that is Marco Rubio. And the fact that Marco Rubio got to go to these talks at all is a minor miracle because, again, remember we talked about this yesterday where he has been was sanctioned by Iran when he was a senator because he called out their human rights violations, which, by the way, that's also a little bit of a sticky wicket. So, there is just, as far as China goes, there's some progress that have seemingly been made on a lot of these issues that I've been talking about. Though we still have the very uncomfortable conversation regarding Taiwan. We were talking earlier in the 5 o'clock hour, the Thucydides trap. And that is when a rising power displaces a current ruling power. And a lot of the media made note of the fact that Xi Jinping and the some others in the Chinese government actually referenced the Thucydides trap, which, by the way, they're saying that this is kind of like a very thinly veiled threat against America because they're saying that, yes, America is the ruling power, if you will, in the world, and China is that rising power that could displace us as the ruling power of the world. And so during the dinner that Trump and Xi were having, Xi did reference that Thucydides trap. This is how the Daily Mail puts it. But as the pair took their seats opposite each other in the Great Hall of the People in Tiananmen Square, Xi opened with a loaded reference to that so-called Thucydides trap. The phrase refers to the ancient Greek historian Thucydides' account of Athens and Sparta and describes the danger of conflict when an established power feels threatened by a rising civilization. And so basically what China has been doing, and we've been talking about this all day, they're basically saying, we can work together to make both of our countries greater. However, if you mess with us on Taiwan, we're going to have some problems. So the more that they talk and the more that we find out what these discussions were, the more we find out, yes, there were some agreements, but there is also a very big disagreement, and that is the situation related to Taiwan. We'll talk about Taiwan. I did a bit of a deep dive in the 5 o'clock hour. If you're interested, you can go and watch the 5 o'clock hour. I did a whole big long thing. I think I did the entire hour actually on China. But coming up, 8:06, we're going to talk about what is going on with Congressman Andy Ogles. We're going to find out what he thinks about redistricting. He's finally got his phone back from the FBI, and we'll talk about that as well. A lot going on with the congressman. That is coming up next right here on Super Talk 99.7. It is 7:52. Jay has the news coming up at 8. Jay.
Yes, sir, Dan. More on the China summit. Also, a daring rescue off the coast of Florida. We'll have these stories and more coming up at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
7:57. This can't be real. So Elon Musk actually took his son to China. Now, do you remember when, Jay and Sam, do you remember when, I don't know, because Elon Musk has like 1 million kids, right? Is this the son that picked his nose and wiped it on Trump's desk? Do you remember that?
Oh, my gosh.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That was a whole thing. Donald Trump, I mean, I understand. I mean, Trump is a germaphobe, but I mean, you don't have to be a germaphobe to be grossed out by that. Do you know that they had to take Donald Trump's desk out of the Oval Office, refinish it, restain it, do whatever it is that they had to do? He was that ooged out by, the Elon Musk's kid.
That wasn't the Kennedy desk, was it? They didn't do that to the Kennedy desk?
I don't know which desk. Which desk does Donald Trump use? Resolute desk. I don't know, because they've all got different desks.
Yeah.
I mean, there are different desks.
I know a number of presidents have used the quote unquote Kennedy desk. You know, the famous desk where John Jr. was. The photo was taken of
underneath
him
underneath the desk. Yeah,
right.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, because they do have different desks, don't they? So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, the bottom line is, that's what they had to do with Trump's desk. So I guess if Elon's with that particular nose picking kid, he's like, okay, just keep your finger out of your nose. Can you just do that just for like this one trip? But if you need to do it, don't do it when you see cameras. Maybe that's the deal that he would make with his kid. Anyway, so yeah. Elon Musk's son was seen wandering through a massive hall in China with his father as major CEOs gathered for high-level meetings. I actually love that Elon Musk brought his son to China. It's something he'll never forget. It is 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 8 a.m., and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. A full forecast and a traffic report are coming up. In China, President Trump says that he'd seek to deepen economic and diplomatic ties with Beijing. But the folks there in China, namely the president, Xi Jinping, he's saying that if they want to kind of get into a conflict, then the whole talks over Taiwan could be a problem. Anyway, attending a state banquet following their talks earlier today, both presidents described their meeting as productive.
From the beginning, our citizens have shared a deep sense of mutual respect. Founding Father Benjamin Franklin published the sayings of Confucius in his colonial newspaper, and today's sculpture, recognizing that ancient Chinese sage, is carved into the face of the United States Supreme Court very proudly.
Back here in the U.S., an Air Force Reserve crew in Florida, a day of routine training quickly turned into a life-saving rescue mission. A small plane flying between islands in the Bahamas suffered engine failure. The crew ended up airdropping survival kits to the crash survivors. Then a helicopter hoisted each of 11 passengers to safety, the rescuers completing the rescue with only 5 minutes of gas left for them to fly back to Florida. Air Force Reservist Lieutenant Colonel Matt Johnson, he gives his take on things.
We had to work out whether or not we had enough fuel or if we could even carry all 11. It was really tight, but we were able to use our hoist and our basket to get everyone safely from the raft to the aircraft.
They make artificial intelligence possible, but they also gobble up a whole bunch of electricity and water. ABC's Jim Ryan says that data centers also have an image problem.
For the first time, Gallup has surveyed Americans on the topic, finding that 7 in 10 would oppose the construction of an AI data center in their area. Less than a quarter would support it. The companies behind the centers have seen the surveys, and they're pushing back.
We searched for new opportunities, and we welcome Meta, which opened a data center in our town.
Analytics firm Ad Impact says Meta alone has spent $6 million this year on TV advertising meant to woo communities and policymakers. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
That is the latest news. Weather and traffic are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Apparently, there is a medical emergency that has the right lane blocked to Briley Parkway northbound just before Centennial Boulevard. That would be near exit 26. On the East Bank, a crash reported 24 eastbound at the Shelby Avenue exit. In Donaldson, an injury wreck, Stewart's Ferry Pike at I-40, and finally a crash Nolensville Pike just south of Edmondson Pike. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.806 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Want to get to the Newsmaker Hotline. Congressman Andy Ogles is joining us. Congressman, I cannot wait to get your take on and your perspective on what is going on with China right now. But first, you got your phone back from the Department of Justice. This has to be a very big deal for you. I don't know if you remember this, Congressman, because it is all about me. You had just finished an interview with me when you went home, and I guess it was either that day or the very next morning, they came and they took your phone. They absconded with your phone in this campaign finance-related investigation. Took them 2 years to finally give you your phone back. So, number one, congratulations on getting the phone back.
Yeah, I mean, we had, I do believe, had an interview the day before, and so it was the next morning. And yeah, I mean, it's scary to think that what otherwise is a civil mistake. So it's a Federal Election Commission. There's a board you go to. There's an appeals process. We hired a third-party auditor, et cetera. And quite frankly, I've never filled out one of those forms. I hire someone to do that. But that's neither here nor there. But, now you see, so it just wasn't me. You saw, they took Scott Perry's phone. They opened an investigation against Lauren Boebert, against Ralph Norman. So all of these individuals, and what do we all have in common? We're conservative. We're Republicans. And we were going after me specifically. So I had legislation. So Jack Smith used to run the national office. I had legislation to defund him and his office in D.C. I was carrying the articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And just a few weeks after me doing that, they came to my house. And so the reason why I can now go public is this is behind me. But it's also a warning to Americans. There's a speech and debate clause. It's in the Constitution that literally prohibits the executive branch from doing to me what they did. And they did it anyway. And so if they can do that to me, Dan, they can do that to you because you're conservative. They can do it to your listeners because they're listening to your show. And so we've got to fight back and say we have a First Amendment, we have a Fourth Amendment, and we have to stand by and protect those.
Okay, so now this may be a silly question, but I'm just dying of curiosity because I love the behind-the-scenes stuff. So how did they give you your phone back? Did they did they just, somebody walked up and literally gave you the phone, or did it come in like some super secret compartment? How does that work?
Yeah, so I have attorneys. I have D.C. attorneys. I have D.C. attorneys in Nashville, and that's all handled by the attorneys in D.C. Aside from in my professional capacity on Homeland, chairman of cyber, I have a great relationship with the FBI. And by the way, we have some great people at the Department of Justice. We have great people at the FBI. I am their advocate, and so that being said, that's because you have a new leadership, right? And so, but that being said, again, because of my cyber role, I interface with the FBI regularly, but that I compartmentalize that and let the attorneys handle the other stuff.
So, again, dumb question, then we'll get to some serious stuff. Are you actually going to use the phone, or what are you going to do?
I don't know, put it in a frame, a shadow box. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say a shadow box would be perfect. All right, well, let's get...
But I will say, I mean, it should be a scary, I mean, to this day, our youngest child still has nightmares about, will someone, and his perspective is it would be Biden or someone related to Biden is going to come and grab his dad one night or one morning. And so this is, this was done for political motivated reasons. It wasn't done in the pursuit of justice because quite frankly, all the information that was on the phone, we ended up turning over in some form or fashion anyway.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that they took my phone in violation of the Constitution. Once that wall of separation between the executive branch and the legislative branch, that destroys your right to privacy, the Fourth Amendment, you as a journalist, you as your listeners. And so I had to take a stand and fight back. And look, I respect, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, they're doing a fantastic job. They're going after criminals. They're catching child predators left and right. They're catching terrorists. An amazing job. I'm a big fan. I was with Blanche the other day. So that being said, we have to take a stand to protect the Constitution and the First and Fourth Amendment. Otherwise, it's no longer America.
It is 8:10. Congressman Andy Ogles joining us. All right, so real quick, and I don't know how much you want to get into this, but, the redistricting here in the state of Tennessee, obviously a big controversy. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I was very spoiled with my very small district. Essentially was a triangle, a misshapen triangle there in Little Middle Tennessee, 6 counties. Most of the members of Congress have 20. But now I'll go from Murray County up to Fort Campbell, so I have the Tennessee side of Fort Campbell. I'll go across the Kentucky line up to Reelfoot Lake. True story, my great-grandfather is actually buried up in Obion County, and then it goes down to Shelby County. So I make this giant rainbow from Middle Tennessee up to Fort Campbell to Reelfoot Lake and down to Shelby. So I'll be putting a lot of miles on the car over the next few years. But you know what? It's an honor to serve, and I look forward to being an advocate for Middle Tennessee and now West Tennessee.
So President Trump, as you no doubt know, he is in China. I thought this was interesting because I don't think you like China any more than I do. I'm not a fan. Right. 2024, you and J.D. Vance in the Senate, you'd actually had a piece of legislation that would have banned China from participating in our financial markets. That is indicative, obviously, of someone who doesn't trust China. What are your thoughts of, Donald Trump? And there really does seem to be, both parties trying to come up with some sort of a workable agreement on things like trade and tariffs. And apparently China has also decided to buy some of our oil. What's your thought on all of this?
So the Chinese economy is really struggling, and it kind of underscores their dependence and, quite frankly, our interdependence on one another. So they manufacture a lot of goods that Americans buy, keeps prices low. And I would rather we shore that to North and South America and focus on this hemisphere versus China. But that being said, it's going to open up new markets for our farmers and different technologies. But you also have to go into that relationship understanding that China steals intellectual property. So I'm chairman of Homeland Cyber. I get classified briefings. We've talked about this before. I get the kind of briefings most members of Congress don't get. And China attacks us every single day trying to attack or hack our systems. And so you've got to understand that this is a troubled relationship, but it's a relationship worth having. I guess that idea of keep your friends close, your enemies closer. And I think right now that's what the president is doing with China.
Yeah, and as I've said 1,000 times today, that we can't trust China as far as we can throw them. And I do appreciate, you probably saw the story, maybe did, maybe didn't, but you probably saw the story of the mayor of Arcadia, California, that turned out to be a Chinese spy. I mean, we've seen this all the time. And so, one of the things that I find interesting is we're told that we are also spying on China. And I don't know who is able to spy better, us or China. And obviously, I don't want to put you in a position to ask you that question. So we'll just move on. I do want to talk about.
I'll answer the question.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Are we spying on them as good as they're spying on us?
Well, so what China's great at is you have all of these individuals training at our universities, they're, TAs, teaching assistants, they're, professors and such, and they use those individuals to collect information. If you and I, Dan, go to China and we're working for some university, they are going to track us every second of every day. They're going to be watching us sleeping. And so when it comes to that human intelligence, China is very intentional. They have a very elaborate network on spying. Now, look, I've said it before, we're the dominant predator across all landscapes, so whether it's cyber, land, sea, space, et cetera. So obviously we have, technological capabilities that are advanced to China. But when it comes to human intelligence, they do a fantastic job. And I just have to admit this, embedding themselves into our critical systems, our infrastructure, and our universities. And that's why I just don't trust them. I can't trust them because we've seen them with biological material at universities. We see them stealing secrets at, high-tech plants and stuff. This isn't rhetoric, it's fact. And we've got, again, keep your friends close, your enemies closer, I suppose. But we have to understand it's a very troubled and at times dangerous relationship.
Yeah, it is, and we'll move on from there. But I think for the president, I see what he's trying to do, but it's just one of those things where there better be an upside, a really good upside for Americans. One of the things, and I did cover this extensively yesterday, you have a new piece of legislation out regarding assimilation, and some people are calling this controversial, and for the life of me, I don't understand why. But talk about your new piece of legislation and talk about whether or not it is going to be able to pass the House of Representatives.
Well, so it's the Assimilation Act. So I'm working with the White House, Stephen Miller and his crew. So there'll be a phased approach. So we have the Assimilation Act. We'll be dropping another piece of legislation tomorrow or Monday, which is kind of that next phase of immigration. But the immigration system hasn't been really had a major overhaul since 1965 when Hart-Celler passed, which set up the framework for this mass migration, this mass abuse of people coming into this country. And so what my bill does is it cuts off the mass immigration. It reforms H-1B visas. If you come here, you've got to have a job. You can't go on welfare. You can't be a member of MS-13 or Trinidad. Imagine that. You can't be a criminal and come to this country. And so all of these Assimilation Act is actually quite non-controversial because it's all kitchen table, common sense kind of stuff. If you're going to come here, you've got to love this country. You have to have a reason to be here. You have to have a job and be able to support yourself. Whereas the Afghanis that came here, roughly 200,000 under Joe Biden, over half of them are on food stamps and roughly 70% get free health care. I got veterans at 22 a day killing themselves. So who do I pick? Our veterans or Afghanis? I pick our veterans. It's that simple.
One of the things that I love about this, and I talked about this yesterday, but how you talk about how these folks need a job sponsor, an employment sponsor. How would that work in reality? Would they have to be able to, know some sort of a trade to get into this country so that they could actually produce and contribute as opposed to take?
Absolutely. I mean, in many countries in the world, again, Dan, if you and I wanted to go work in the Middle East, they're not just going to let us come and hang out. I mean, if you're over there on a tourist visa or a visa expires in 2 or 3 weeks, they're going to make us leave. If we're over there on a work visa, they're not going to issue us that work visa unless they know that we have an employer that is going to hire us upon arrival. And so why don't we get back to that the way it used to be before 1965, where we had a quota system, where you had to have a reason to be here, that you had to have a job to be here, and you weren't going straight to the unemployment line, collecting benefits, collecting welfare, and getting free health care. Meanwhile, we have Americans who need assistance.
And I would agree with you. What do you think the chances are that it actually passes? By the way, you are working with Tommy Tuberville on this, which I think is very cool. Do you think it'll actually pass the Senate?
Well, the House is the easier lift, I'll be honest with you. I mean, we passed the SAVE Act, which is, election reform, integrity. The Senate is the problem, but, the Senate is just a different animal. Immigration is one of the top issues in the country right now. Same with election integrity, Democrat, Republican, white, black, brown. I mean, and so these should be common sense bills. So I would love to say, yes, it's going to pass in the House, and then, of course, it'll pass in the Senate. I think it'll pass in the House. The Senate is where the real fight's going to be because they have no motivation or incentive to do anything. They're running out the clock to go home for the year.
One of the things, and you get an up close and personal look at Hakeem Jeffries every single day. That must be so much fun. This whole redistricting thing across the country has been fascinating to watch, to say the least. One of the things that he, of course, said is maximum warfare everywhere all the time. And it looks like the Republicans have certainly taken that to a new level with all of the successful redistricting. How are you feeling about next year? How are you feeling about the Republicans being able to keep the House?
Yeah, I mean, I think really it's a factor of probability. So, if you pick up 8, 9 seats with redistricting, that lowers your threshold of what you have to keep in the midterms. So it goes down to maybe 4 or 5 instead of having to win 12. And so I think our odds are really good at keeping the House. So the only question now is, do you win and have an 8-seat margin, or do you win and have, it's not going to be huge, but a 10 or 11-seat margin. And so, but look, we have to go out there. We have to work hard. We have to, take nothing for granted. But, if you look at the Northeast, which is, I'll use broad strokes when all of those states up in the Northeast, but roughly 40 to 43% Republican. And we've got almost no representation, almost no Republicans out of the Northeast. And so now that we're doing it in the South, to say, you know what? This is the South. We have Republican General Assemblies. We have Republican governors. We're going to redraw our maps to reflect what the Democrats did in the Northeast. Now suddenly we are gerrymandering, or accused of gerrymandering. Suddenly we're racist. So it's all nonsense. Again, the Democrats, they don't have a platform. They don't have a plan. All they can do is call us names and wag their finger at us. Mass deportation continues to be something a lot of folks talking about. I saw a headline the other day. The headline was that voluntarily deporting is something, those numbers are off the charts. People, taking the buyout or whatever it is and just leaving voluntarily. Have you been, number one, have you been satisfied with the deportation numbers? And number two, what are you seeing from your vantage point as far as people leaving our country voluntarily? Well, as one of the, I guess, foremost premier immigration hawks in the House, I would like to see those numbers increase. If you came here illegally, you shouldn't be here. You have to go back to your home country. If you want to apply and get in line, then you can do so. That also, creates that importance of reforming the immigration system, which is what I carry the legislation that's going to do a lot of that. But I think there should be more. Again, if you came here illegally, again, Dan, we can't go to Europe illegally as Americans. Now, if you're from Africa, they'll let you in, but we as Americans can't do that. We can't go to the UAE illegally. We've got to ramp it up. And quite frankly, when you look at cities, violent cities across America, where you see the population of illegals going down, you also see the crime going down. And that is a direct correlation. And part of that is because of better police presence, better accountability. And imagine, you have law and order in a city like Memphis that was literally the most violent city in America, and crime has been cut in half. And so as we go forward, I think we need more deportations. And I think at the end of the day, it'll be what's best for our economy. And it has a ripple effect. Housing prices come down because you don't have all the pressures on apartments and condos and such. And overall, it's a good thing. Congressman, we don't really have a lot of time left. Is there anything else we should have covered in our final moments? Well, it'll be interesting just to see how this China trip plays out. I mean, obviously China's a world power, keep them at arm's distance. But the reality is they produce a lot of manufacturing for the world. Over the next few years, one of the things I'll be advocating for is to shift our manufacturing from China to the Americas. I mean, I'd much rather be operating out of South Central America or certainly North America versus China. So that takes time to build out. And so I understand why the president is keeping China close. But we also have to prepare for that inevitability where they attack Taiwan and we have to turn off the spigot. We've got to have an infrastructure to take care of ourselves and stand alone. And the more independent we are from China, the less leverage they have with us when it comes to Taiwan. Absolutely. And with that, we'll call it a conversation. Thank you, Congressman Andy Ogles. We'll talk to you again soon. And congratulations on getting the phone back. It is 8:24
On Nashville's Morning News, Jay Harper has the news coming up at 8:30. Jay.
Yes, sir, Dan. The war in Ukraine, it still rages on. And we've been hearing about the hantavirus. Should we be concerned about it? We've got those stories coming up at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay. 824 Super Talk 99.7. Dan Mandis here. And you know how many ways we can lose power, right? We've got ice and ice storms and snow and tornadoes, but there is one surefire way to get that power back on. That is a backup generator from the Generator Supercenter. Now, these folks are the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. Now, they feature turnkey installation, certified electricians and plumbers, maintenance and service after the install, and a whole lot more. Now, let me tell you how it works. The power goes out in your neighborhood. The power in your home is going to turn right back on thanks to your backup generator. Now, if you're one of the many families right now talking about a backup generator, talk to the pros at the Generator Supercenter. Another reason to love the Generator Supercenter, their generators are made right here in the USA. Now, they'll never leave you in the dark. Financing is available, and yes, they are waiting for your call, so call them. 615-879-1952, 615-879-1952, Generator Supercenter of Nashville.com. That's Generator Supercenter of Nashville.com. Hey, it's Dan Mandis counting down to one of my favorite radio events of the year, the Glock Store's Open House. They do this every single year, and this year it's going to be on Saturday, May 30th. Now, for no other reason, you've got to show up because of all of the raffles. Now, they're giving away multiple Glock handguns, a couple of Rugers as well, a bunch of optics and Glock parts and accessories. Giveaways aplenty on Saturday, May 30th at the Glock Store. Check them out. The open house goes from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Remember, the earlier that you get there, the sooner you can register to win and the sooner you can start winning. Don't forget, it is Saturday, May 30th. They're going to have all kinds of speakers available. They've got vendors as well. I'm going to be there. Chris Hand is going to be there. Of course, Matt Murphy. All of us are going to be there. We love to sit and talk to folks coming out, talking about guns, talking about politics, talking about the greatness of the Glock Store. I've been a customer for a long time. This is where I bought my first gun. This is where I buy all my ammo and go through all of my training as well. This is the two-way event of the year. Check them out, the Glock Store, Saturday, May 30th. It is their 6th annual open house. More details at their website, shoot270.com and glockstore.com. We'll see you there. Hey, it's Dan Mandis from Super Talk 99.7 WTN and Nationals Morning News. I'm here with Chris from USS, United Structural Systems. He's checking out my basement, my foundation, my crawl space to see if there's anything wrong. Fingers crossed. All right, so there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is we found some cracks in my basement wall. The good news, I've got Chris here who's going to walk me through the next steps.
Yes, so unfortunately, your house has been subject to the pressure of the dirt. The hydrostatic pressure, heavy dirt pushes on foundation walls, and you got a little bit of what we call bowing. So that wall is pushed in a little bit. But we have a lifetime warranty solution for that. So We install, usually in a day or two, this can be done in most situations. We install carbon fiber straps, which keep the wall from moving inward at any point in the future. It's a lifetime warranty for anybody that ever owns this house. So it's a quick and routine thing that we do, but it yields some long-lasting benefits.
It's a great selling point if you want to sell your house.
Absolutely. Good thing about our warranties is they're not only transferable, like the contract says, they're automatically transferred when you sell your house. So you don't have to sign any paperwork or even send us an email saying that you sold your house. Warranty would transfer to the next owner.
Good morning. It is 8:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, your forecast, and a traffic report. They're coming up. Search and rescue operations continue this morning at the site of a building collapse in Kiev that nearly a dozen people have been reported missing from. That's according to Ukrainian President Zelensky. He said that on social media. He also slammed Vladimir Putin for using the cover of the Trump summit in China to launch a devastating attack on Ukraine. Here's ABC's Ian Pannell.
Wave after wave after wave of devastating Russian drone and missile attacks across the country. More than 1,600 in total since Wednesday night. A drone slamming into a railway yard close to President Zelensky's hometown, Kryvyi Rih. Putin's military striking energy, water and transport infrastructure, but also hitting residential buildings. The capital, Kyiv, repeatedly hit. Rescue workers scrambling through the debris, searching for survivors.
At least 20 sites suffering damage in the city, including a school that, again, according to Zelensky, at least 15 killed and more than 130 injured across the country. The one American who tested positive for the hantavirus has been cleared to move out of isolation in Omaha, Nebraska after testing negative. ABC's Victor Oquindo, he's in Omaha with the latest on the first and only American to initially test positive from that cruise ship, Dr. Stephen Kornfeld. He stepped up to serve as the ship's doctor after the original one contracted the virus.
Kornfeld saying he felt like he was coming down with the flu. One of his samples taken on the cruise ship, later testing positive for hantavirus.
This is a very secure facility. So if I am to get sick and spill virus, there's no way that virus is getting out of this building.
Overnight, his most recent PCR test coming back negative. He's now out of the biocontainment unit.
That is the latest news. Weather, traffic, they're on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Thank you, Jay. 832 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here for my friends at Window Nation. Listen, it's going to get hot. It's going to get hotter, and you're going to have really high AC bills. Now, if you want new energy-efficient windows at a great price, check out my friends at Window Nation, because right now they've got a great deal going on. Buy 4 windows, get 4 windows free. That sale, again, going on right now from Window Nation. You could replace all the windows in your home and get half of them for free. You could also get 0 down payment and no payments or interest for 2 full years. Now, this is a huge deal from my friends at Window Nation. They are trying to help you get great windows. They've got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, 96% customer satisfaction rating, and over 45,000 5-star reviews. One of those, by the way, is mine. I've got 4 Window Nation windows in my home. So don't forget, buy 4 windows, get 4 free. That sale going on right now, courtesy of Window Nation. You could get them with 0 down payment and no payments or interest for 2 years. So check them out today, windownation.com. That's windownation.com.
We just have this one crash that's been reported. This would be on M.L. King Jr. Boulevard at 10th Avenue North, and we are still seeing quite the logjam at the 6524 junction there north of Trinity Lane. That's pretty normal, but again, it is starting to move just a bit here at 8:36 in the morning. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
See, I like Tom McDonald.
It's actually a really good song.
Yeah. Sam in there was like, I'm going to subject you to hip-hop, but I like this hip-hop. This is good. I bet you even Jay Harper, the whitest man in America. I love you, Jay. Even Jay Harper, the whitest man in America.
No. Dan, Jay's bigoted doctor assigned him white pigmentation at birth. He's actually very black.
Well, in any event, I like to have Jay around because he makes me look cool.
No, actually, I did one of those ancestry tests, and I do have some African lineage.
You do?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep, 2% from the Congo.
Let's go. It counts.
Yeah, man.
He's an African American.
That's right. I claim it, brother.
Explains his excellent rhythm.
Did you hear what he just said? Do that again, Jay. Just so everybody can hear it. Do it again.
I can't.
Oh, man, that is so funny. All right. Well, the Congo, is that where it's from? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it Congo? Is that like South Africa? I don't even know.
No, it's like right in the heart of the
because
continent.
if you were from South Africa, Jay, then they'd come over here and steal your property here.
Well, they would just say he's like British adjacent if he was from South Africa.
Is that what it is?
He's from the heartland.
Hey,
true.
I'm gonna play something, okay? And super texters, you can play too. I got to get to the super text line. Here we go. Super texters, you can play too. All right. I'm gonna play this, and I want and Chris, you can't play because you know what I'm doing. Does anybody know?
And just let the record show, I tried to talk him out of it.
It's gonna be dumb. So, can anybody guess this hint and why I'm playing this? Can anybody guess as to why I'm playing this?
Because you're about to have a grandson?
No. Jay?
Some Star Wars reference of some kind.
All right, super texters, why am I playing?
Specifically, that's from episode 5, right?
It's from The Empire Strikes Back.
Well, it's from 6.
Whatever.
Number 3.
So anyway, I want to just know, and I'll give you the payoff. I'm dying to know if anybody knows why I'm stupidly playing that song or that soundbite.
Can you do it one more time for us?
I can do it 1,000 times. People know that I can, and I'm very annoying when I do that. Nobody know? Wow, none of you people know. Nobody pays close attention.
If there was a prize associated with this, nobody would win. Tell you what, first person that guesses it on the super text line, you get to come to the Glock Store's open house on Saturday, May 30th from 10 to 2 for free.
Absolutely. And you can talk to Chris Hand.
That'll cost you.
Is it your grandson's name? Is that what they're going to name him? What?
It was a joke. The Glock Store open house is free. That was the prize.
1970 says Star Wars. I know. 1570 says having a stroke. No.
Lisa says, are you telling someone you're their daddy?
Nobody wants that. Okay. I can't do this anymore.
No. Come on. One more time. How about one more time for the people in the back?
I know what you're trying to do, man. Luke is the name of Joan Jones' new grandson.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was thinking James Earl Jones, and I kind of thought maybe there was a roundabout Joan Jones reference in there, but it's the Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Mind you, this scene is he's about to say that, he's his father or something, but we're gonna loop it back to a grandmother somehow.
Shut up, Sam. Anyway, so
that was like taking the long way back through the woods. Like, you're gonna get ticks where you don't want them, but you did it anyway.
Sure. Anyway, so that is my phone
perfectly
is
carved out path over there, but no.
Mm-hmm.
You want to?
Is the baby officially born?
Yes.
And
Born
so-
just a few minutes ago.
So it didn't even make it an hour before you're roasting the name? Is that what we're doing? So you wanted to be the first?
Using Star Wars in reference to anyone giving birth is always dark because the mom dies,
She says, I don't have any photos yet because we haven't been able to go see them. So
everybody knows the first few photos, they're not the best.
I was about to say, they got to get hosed off.
Take it from a guy with 4 kids.
Yeah.
You think they're cute, and then you look at them a few months later and you're like, whoa.
9506 says, yeah, it was close. Sally says, I'm a nerd. Thank you. Sally's been on my arse today. I don't know what is wrong with Sally today.
Just today, I've been dealing with that for months.
Have you?
Yes.
Well, I thought Sally was a chick for a long time.
No.
I was a lot less interested in Sally once I found out Sally was a dude. Totally kidding. Totally kidding, Sally. Love you. Mean it, really. 4702 says that still sounds better than Dan singing, which I don't know if you caught me singing earlier today.
You were singing?
I did.
Yeah.
Man.
I did.
I always miss the best moments.
The Mickey Mouse voice.
Jay, you were an hour late. Shut the hell up.
Hey,
whoa.
You're lucky I got here. I was rousted out of bed this morning. Can you cover? Yeah, okay, I'll cover.
So, Jay was an hour late, and I sang.
An hour late to cover.
What was that song? What was the song?
I sang the Michael. I'm not going to do it.
Do it.
Nice try. No, I'm not. Because everybody told me not to do it again.
Which one was it?
I always feel like somebody's watching me by Rockwell, and I sang the Michael Jackson part.
Oh.
Because I can hit that. Hi.
Like the South Tower.
Anyway, so I sang that.
Did you hear that joke?
I did.
That's a nasty one.
That's a nasty one. You know, play Jones Growl just for yourself. Anyway, so and yes, Jay, thank you for So we don't.
Jay showed up late with an Egg McMuffin and a coffee.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So this is the great. So as far as my second grandson goes, they haven't. He's due like tomorrow. So they haven't named him yet.
No, obviously they have a name, but they're not telling you because they know that minutes into this kid's life, you're going to be roasting it. They're looking out for the kid. That's what good parents do.
Jason says, I would say you're fairly annoying all of the time, but in a lovable way. Is this what we're going to do in my last final minutes of the radio program today?
Beautiful description.
So
Joan Jones is somewhere listening to this, and she's reacting the same way Luke did with it. No!
All newborns look like Phil Collins. That is actually true.
Right.
That is actually true. All newborns do look like, you know what, well, never mind. Anyway, so.
What? What were you going to say? No, what are you going to say?
Beep, beep, back it up there, Buster.
He didn't have much time left. So I don't want to say anything negative about Phil Collins because.
It's like Joan's favorite person.
Yeah, it's also one of Joan Jones's favorite singers. That's right.
Do you think he feels it coming?
Phil Collins?
In the air.
All right, I got it now. I see what you guys are doing. You know what? I can be annoying too. All right. Anyway, they have 2 names picked out.
Oh.
One is Hayden. The other is Lincoln.
Okay.
I love the name Lincoln.
Yeah.
Like I do. I like the name Lincoln.
Hayden's a little too 2000-y. You know, Lincoln's like stoic and historical.
Hayden sounds like a Backstreet Boy.
Dan's going to be changing the diapers. So he's going to be like, Lincoln's got some logs. Get ready. And then he's going to bury it. He's going to just He's going to bury that joke in the ground.
My daughter said, well, Lincoln's a difficult name to spell. And I said, for who?
What?
That's what I said.
Is it the capital of Nebraska?
Well, and then they're talking, because you know how these young people today, they're like, well, maybe we can change the name of the spelling. Because that's what young parents do today. They like to have a unique spelling on classic names.
That's
And
right.
they're like, no, you're not going to be doing that.
Yeah, my second grandson, they named him Ryan, but they spelled it R-I-A-N, which apparently is the Gaelic spelling, the original spelling.
Isn't that like Rian?
It's just a kid. We don't have to push,
I know.
Don't
with
push
you,
your
man.
Gaelic agenda on him.
So he's going to have his name misspelled his entire life,
Why is somebody asking me if we're giving away Journey tickets? Are we supposed to be giving away Journey tickets?
I heard that commercial yesterday. The Journey Home Tour is happening, and I thought to myself, Mandis would see this if it was happening in Vegas.
It's a final. I'm gonna throw something at you today, man.
I looked it up. They're not playing there, so I was figuring out when I might have to fill in on the morning show.
So actually, I have seen Journey so many times. I'm not actually going to be going to the Journey concert.
It could be the last time, Dan.
It's the Final Frontiers tour, by the way, not the Journey Home tour.
No, it's the Journey Home tour.
To the retirement home.
Oh, is that what you guys are calling it?
I heard that during the Journey concert, all the entrances will have ramps.
It's pretty good, actually. No.
And illuminated walkways everywhere.
It's going to be the only concert where they don't turn down the house lights for safety.
And for
you guys keep going.
Oxygen monitors and insulin checks.
They need
some of the kids' concerts they have Narcan. Yeah, this concert they're gonna have diabetes medication.
Right. Or the tour is sponsored by Depends.
They're gonna have Ben Gay up on the stage.
There'll be no lines at the bathroom as a result of that sponsor, Jay.
Yeah.
You won't miss a minute of the show.
Not a minute.
Anyway, so
the lines in the bathroom would be ridiculous. I mean, considering the age of some of the men that are going to be at this concert and the flow issues.
Yeah, it takes a while to get that stream going.
It would be a line like a women's room.
They're past their Pearl Jam days. Even flow.
You guys just keep going. Just go ahead. We got like a minute 45 left. You guys want to keep going?
Actually, we really have like 2.5 more minutes.
All I was going to say was they need
Which is what that guy said at the urinal.
They need the ramps on the stage because the guys are pretty old there too. They can still play though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
they can still play.
They're just sitting down now.
Phil Collins, he sat during the final tour that he did too, and it was kind of sad actually.
Yeah, it was.
So
okay, well, rough to see the poor guy.
You have parked us in the handicap spot. This is now sad.
It's funny again.
It's really okay. So, are we supposed to be giving away? Here's the stupid thing: are we supposed to be giving away Journey tickets? Like, did somebody? They don't really communicate that much around here. So, I mean, if I'm supposed to be giving away Journey tickets, I can give some away, and then Chris will pay for them if I have no Journey tickets to give away.
I have not received an email from promotions, no.
All right, very good. You going to go see Journey, Chris?
No.
Don't stop believing.
No.
No?
That's what they say before they walk out on stage, in case one of their pacemakers fails.
You can go. I'll go my separate ways.
Someday, love will find you. Break those chains that find you.
4110 says Journey is in their 60s, not their 90s. See, that's exactly right. I don't know what you guys are doing, why you're doing this. And Arnel Pineda, by the way, I think Arnel Pineda is...
Because our ages still have a 3 in front of them.
I think Arnel Pineda is Jay's age. I think Arnel Pineda, who, by the way, is Filipino. And
2%.
No, he's not 2%. He's like 100%. I don't know what he is. Anyway, whatever. So, no, I've seen Journey a bazillion times. I don't need to see them again. Yeah.
Is that any way you want it? Is that the way you need it?
Listen, I can go see Journey anytime. See, I did it too.
Yeah.
I have a song called Anytime.
In the Wheel in the Sky?
No, that didn't make any sense. That's dumb, actually. Why are you wearing sunglasses? So
well, I thought we were going to wear them together.
Sam has decided to wear sunglasses in the dark during this segment. And can I just tell you, you look like I'm going to say it, you look like a D-bag. You do. You look, people that wear sunglasses indoors and particularly on the radio, you look dumb. I love you, but take them off.
They're prescription.
Okay, so now Chris is putting on his sunglasses too.
Stand in solidarity with Sam.
Do you know what? I can't. Okay, so go ahead. Be solidarity with him. You know what? You know what, Chris? I'm not going to show up for today's podcast recording.
Yeah, weird.
I'm not going to show up.
Many such cases. Murphy probably won't show up either. It's just going to be me ranting.
You know what? I'll fill in with my D-bag sunglasses.
You go right on ahead. Cameron wears his sunglasses when he's doing his thing with Murphy's show too. I don't understand why he does that. It makes me hostile. I don't like people that wear sunglasses indoors.
Part of the reason I put them on.
I know.
The star power of Matt Murphy. It's so bright.
Oh, yeah. When he cracks that smile. It's just.
You know what? It's so bright in that room with Matt Murphy that he's got to wear shades.
He's got to.
That's another song.
That's why I'm always squinting during our podcast.
Putting Dr. Horn out of business with the free cataract surgery he's given.
Sure. It's exactly right. Do we have any content for this? Did anybody bring anything?
You brought that Luke sound bit. That was pretty good.
That's exactly right.
That long way back from the woods that almost got us hit in the middle of the road, yeah.
Dan just looks like a D-bag all the time.
Aw. Congratulations, John.
All right.
I wonder if they're talking about my new grandchild at work. Nope.
No, but that started it.
And I'm turning it off.
You know what? We need to. Dan is a deep. What is wrong with all of you people? I'm the good guy here.
I'd rather look like one than being accused of being one full time.
1393. Nothing cool about prescription sunglasses.
That's not the cool part.
That's actually true.
That just allows me to see.
Are those prescriptions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember those days. Then I got surgery from Dr. Horn.
No, I have a condition that can't be fixed that way.
What do you got?
Amblyopia.
I thought it was because you were smoking pot.
No, that's for my glaucoma.
That's what Sam has to do to get through the show, Chris.
That explains a lot.
He starts smoking at like 5.
This is why he's already lasted longer than KGB.
KGB wasn't taking enough drugs to get through the show.
No, we weren't taking enough drugs with that guy.
Now, why? Okay, I don't know why Sam and now what's his name over there are Jay picking on KGB.
Joe.
I like KGB. He was great.
Low hanging fruit.
Whatever. Hey, by the way, Jay, when are you guys going to ask Chris to be on your podcast with Johnny B? What's up with that?
No, okay, here's the thing that Dan wants to do. Dan wants to dunk on me if I get lower views than him. That's all this is about.
Is that
he
what
does
it is?
And you know what? He wants me to go, and he's like, I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to give you that view. That's what he's going to do to
That's
me.
exactly right.
Well, 2 of our top episodes have been the Matt Murphy and the Dan Mandis
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, who got more, Murphy or me?
Well, it's not.
You're
a fair,
on my show, Jay.
No,
just
it's
say
not,
Mandis.
It's not a fair question yet because we did Matt's quite some time ago, so he's got more than you at this point. However, you have really, man, you crashed out of the gate big time.
Here's what I need. Here's what I need from the Mandis Mafia. You like that?
Oh.
So,
Ooh.
whatever. That was so dumb.
Are they all under?
So,
hold on. What are the requirements to get into this mafia? You have to be what? Under 5'9"? Drink Starbucks on the regular.
First of all,
have to
I
travel
don't
to
drink
Vegas for your
Starbucks
concert?
anymore. That's number one.
When
you're not around the Wally's
Anyway,
vending machine.
Wear the Scully cap.
I
Yeah,
want
and
you,
the
I
Scully
want
cap.
you folks to go watch
the
my
uniform.
podcast with Johnny B and Jay. I hate everything that I do. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, we had a
immensely.
great time. Yeah, that was. Yeah, we had a blast.
Yeah, so
and,
go watch
thank,
it. It was
Thank you
actually a
so
lot of
much
fun.
for that. I thought it came out great.
So when are you gonna have Chris on? Is it because Chris isn't cool like me and Matt?
I think, listen, I'm going to let you guys have the YouTube views, and I'll just keep beating you both in radio ratings.
Oh.
1607. 1607. Sorry, Dan. Murphy is cooler than you. I absolutely agree with that. I mean, that doesn't even need to be said. But at least I bring the bits.
You know
what I do.
They'll probably steal this on the afternoon show like they do with the rest of your bits.
All right, we got to go. 8:55. Jay, what's coming up?
I have no idea.
Good. Thanks, Jay.
All right.
Thanks, Jake.
Touch my knobs.
Pardon me? Yeah, you touch your knobs and, well. No, we've got more on the China summit. That's certainly a serious issue. And there's quite the daring rescue off the coast of Florida that we'll talk about. Again, that's coming up here at the top of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Why do I have such respect for D.T. McCall's Let Me Count the Ways? Now, number one, they're great Tennesseans, and they have as many of their items made right here in the volunteer state as possible. I love that about D.T. McCall's. That's number one. Number two is they're always looking for ways to save you money. And right now, they are in the middle of their Upgrade Your Dryer and Elevate Your Laundry sale. It is going on right now through May 31st. And so you can get some great appliances at D.T. McCall's, whether through that special or with all of the rebates that they offer. Basically, if you need an appliance, there's a great rebate on that through D.T. McCall's where you can save hundreds of dollars. Some appliances even up to $1,000. DTMcCalls.com. That is DTMcCalls.com. They do have 5 locations across Middle Tennessee: Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, and Franklin. So if you need any appliances, they've got it. I've got multiple appliances from D.T. McCall's. If you need indoor furniture, they've got all the best brands at great prices and selection as well. When you stop by or when you click or when you call, tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. DTMcCalls.com.